so before we begin, I would like to have a small interactions with every one of you here. May I know how many of you is the first time to attend our Lavia English session with our Dr. Mark? And then you have no idea who Dr. Mark is. Okay, you may reply me number 1 in the chat box below, or maybe, hey, you have been coming for many times. Hey, you're very familiar with Lavia, very familiar with Dr. Mark. Okay, how humorous he is. All right, you may reply 999 in the chat box below. All right, let me have a short survey and see, hey, do we have more new friends over here tonight, or do we have more hardcore fans, okay, our partners and customers here tonight? All right, so let me see.
Yeah, how many people came to see the Joker, right?
Pardon?
How many people came to see the Joker? Isn't this Netflix, the Joker?
Oh, who is the Joker?
You said I was. No.
I see.
Just joking. Great to see you.
You see, a very humorous start tonight. All right. Yeah, I love the energy. All right. Yeah. So I see there's a fair amount of like new friends joining, and also our existing partners and friends tonight. So for the benefits of our new friends tonight, let me have a short introduction about the background of Lavia. All right. Yeah. So Lavia, we were founded in the year 2018, and back then we were focusing on beauty care products. So in year 2020, we had a restructuring and also rebranding, and ever since we started to focus on the anti-aging solution. All right, and from 2020 onwards, we start to have our own R&D team, okay, based in USA and also Europe. Okay, we also have our own manufacturing plants in Malaysia. We have our own marketing strategy, so-called the OMO platform, and also we are building our educational university. All right, yeah. So regarding our Dr. Mark, the main speaker of the night, yeah, Dr. Mark has more than 20 years of experience in holistic nutrition and also the natural medical science, and had a university in USA. All right, yeah. So without further ado, let us have a warm welcome for our Dr. Night, and we may press 555. All right, yeah, like a clap. Okay, welcoming our Dr. Mark. Yeah, we'll pass the floor to you.
I didn't know you could do that. I'll have to try that myself. 555, huh? Well, thank you so much for saying I only have 20 years experience. That makes me feel so young. I mean, 3 more months and I'll be 70. So it's actually 40 years of integrated medicine and natural medicine experience. So,
but you don't look like 70.
Well, to tell you the truth, I don't feel like it either. Whatever 70 is supposed to feel like. Now, what if we were to live to be 120? Then what should 70 feel like? And we can all get there. That's the future. And so we just have to aspire for it. And we have to change our life and get the right nutrients and stay healthy, stay balanced. That's what it's all about. Don't go to extremes.
Yes, true.
And now everybody has Cell Age Plus. So they've got an advantage to most other people with regards to immunity, with regards to anti-inflammation, with regards to regeneration of new stem cells, so you can be continuously regenerating the cells. You know, I just heard today, I forget who I was listening to, they said we have 50 trillion cells in our body. Can you imagine 50 trillion? That's higher than the American debt to China, I think. I don't think even America owes that much money to China. Anyway, so, and every day, billions die. So where do they go? Well, they get eliminated, but then what replaces them? That's why it's so important to have just the specific nutrients that feed the cell, that create the cell, and to give the cell the energy, as well as balancing the whole ecosystem. That's what it's all about. I love your presentation there about how Lavia is an ecosystem, because that's what it's all about, you know. I've always said in the past that humans, the being, especially the inner being, is the microcosm of the macrocosm. You look out the universe and you see billions, well, it's hard to see them in some cities, but out in the mountains, you see billions of stars out there. It's just endless and unlimited. You know, Dr. Steele did a electron microscope photograph of the stem cell. And I've got the photograph, there's 3 of them actually. And you look at it and it's of the cell, of the blood. there's billions and billions of bright colored cells in there just vibrating. And it looks like the night sky. It's so incredible, which makes you realize that what's going on inside is going on the outside, which is why we have to take care of our environment, both inside and outside, because there's no difference. One affects the other, and one is affected by the other. Unfortunately, we're having a very deleterious effect on our environment right now, on the external. So, but what we really can work on is our internal environment. You know, there was everybody's heard of Louis Pasteur. Louis Pasteur developed the vaccine and the immunization. He got all this credit for it. Well, actually, his associate was a guy named Bouchon. And Bouchon says, hey, Louis, it's not, you don't fight these microorganisms. What you do is you balance the terrain. They called it de milieu, which means it's kind of like the difference between having sewage water inside you and having pure spring water, you know? So that's the difference of how your health can be and how your inside organs, your glands, your blood, your lymphatic system, everything inside you can be like a sewage system, or it can be like pure spring water or rainwater or whatever. So that's what's so important, is that we can change our inner terrain. And that is what gives us our health, longevity, quality, and overall immunity, especially in this really challenging times right now, like never before on this planet, probably.
Yeah, it's so fascinating when we see the photos of the stem cells, how they're interacting with each other. And then, like you say, it really looks like the sky shining to each other.
That's what we are.
Yeah. Yeah. So anyway, the theme of the night is Ask Dr. Mark. Yeah. So before we ask you anything, do you prepare any materials to share with us before we move on to the Q&A session?
Any what? I'm sorry?
Yeah, have you prepared any materials to share with us before we move on to the Q&A session?
You know, I didn't tonight. I wasn't asked to specifically, and I didn't think about it because I just wanted to give all this time to the people to see for their questions, because I know they're bound to have many, and I'm just open to answering any and all of them and the best I can. And I'm not the world's expert, but like I say, 40 years of experience, and also our team. I was thinking of it tonight. Our team with Dr. Steele, Dr. Lane, and our French doctor, we have probably over 100.
100, yes.
We won't tell our age,
hundreds.
but over 120 years of combined experience in the holistic, natural, integrative stem cell, some of the foremost technology on the planet, as well as the foremost renowned, tried and true approaches with Chinese medicine, Ayurveda, and there's an incredible growth in America for naturopathy. It was like Germany was probably, and Europe was the source of naturopathy, but America really took it to another level and have continued to do so. I mean, there's, I think, 6 or 7 different schools of naturopathy now in America alone. And chiropractic schools and integrated medicine schools, they just keep popping up. You know why? Because there's demand for it. 20 years ago, they said that in medical schools, maybe less than 5% was even mentioned nutrition, even less than, I think it was 2% or something was nutrition. And what's the core of health? I mean, you know, doctors comes from the root word docere, which means to teach. We should be teaching people, giving them knowledge so that they can take responsibility for their own health. And that's the empowerment. You know, once you have the proper materials, more knowledge, you become empowered. That's what it's all about. So you're not giving your power away. You know, medical doctors are just so essential on the planet. I mean, I would never criticize. I come from 3 generations of medical doctors, and you know, I was one myself. I am one myself, and more into the integrated medical side of it and natural holistic medicine. But each has its part. And what we do on our side is we help with metabolism. We help with degenerative diseases that can be balanced, and everything such as syndrome X, and that includes so many of the degenerative diseases. There's no pill that cures those. There's pills that can help them, okay, with diabetes. There's no pill that reverses diabetes. most cancers, eventually after 5 years, the person gets cancer again or expires. Heart disease, there's no really reversing it. They can do surgery and prolong the life, but most of the medications just do not do the trick. So many people are on high blood pressure medications, and many times they'll die of an ischemic illness. And even with the vaccinations these days, we won't get into that though, but everything has its purpose, and we all just need to do what we need to do best. And part of what we do is teaching. We like to teach individuals how to take responsibility for their own health and empower themselves and make the right choices in life. And sometimes that takes a lot of discipline. Everybody loves their sweets, everybody loves their breads, which is one of the most fattening substances in the world today. I just keep telling people that wheat is more fattening probably than sugar, but that's another story. And we may get into it later, and I can explain why. But what I'd like to do is just hear where everybody's coming from. I'm sure that you all have some wonderful questions, and I'm looking forward to see if I can answer them.
Yes. Yeah, we have been collecting some questions from our customers and partners, and then at one glance, I would say most of the questions focus on the word how. So I reckon our customers and partners would like to have a more technical kind of explanations or illustrations from a professional point of view. So are you ready, Dr. Mark?
Absolutely. Yeah, this is exciting.
I'm looking forward as well. House, yeah. So the first question is, how does South H Plus help to improve psoriasis?
Improve what? Paralysis?
Yes, psoriasis.
P-A-R-A-L-Y-S-I-S, right? Paralysis.
Well, P-S-O-R-I-A-S-I-S.
Oh, psoriasis.
Yes.
Gotcha. Okay.
Psoriasis.
I thought it was paralysis, but well, psoriasis, I must say, in many instances has to do with the liver. It has to do with toxicity in the system. It's generally not a microbe. I mean, to treat it with antibiotics is just kind of almost defeating the purpose, because that's just going to create more toxicity in the system and destroy what we call the microbiome. The microbiome is the seat of your immune system, and the microbiome is your whole body, the whole internal body, your organs, your glands, your digestive, your elimination. But the key to the microbiome is the beneficial bacteria in your gut, in your GI tract. We call it the gastrointestinal tract, which starts right here at the mouth. And this is the thing, and I'll just say this quickly, but I always tell all my patients, you don't have any teeth in your tummy. You don't have any teeth in your stomach, right? Your teeth are in your mouth. So often I see people just shovel food down. It just goes down so quick. And how can you digest it? There's no teeth in your tummy, right? It's meant to be masticated. You've got to chew it. And this is two reasons why. One, you have certain bacteria in there. In many respects, we're like a dog. We've got a lot of bacteria in our mouth. Every time you kiss somebody, you could, you experience a little bacteria. But
Christmas is coming.
Yeah, get a little mistletoe out. And but you have that, which starts the digestion of the food immediately, as well as the saliva enzymes, which are alkaline, so that by the time the food gets to the stomach, you're supposed to drink your solids and eat your liquids. If you understand what I mean, chew, and you won't have gastrointestinal problems. This is the first where it all starts. It gets to the stomach, and if it's alkaline enough, your body will secrete the acid enzymes to digest it. That acid goes through the stomach, goes into the small intestine, where your alkaline enzymes are activated if it's acid enough from the stomach. As we get older, many people lose those glands that produce that acid, and that creates a problem. So then it's a whole process of alkaline, acidity, and such, but a big part of it is those microbes. Now, antibiotics destroy your beneficial microbes. That's just what happens, And unfortunately now, with many diseases, many pathogenic microbes, they become resistant to these viruses, so they become super microbes. But the key is you have those in you all the time. I keep telling people, every time I go to the grocery, I probably get exposed to the virus, to COVID. And it's just how your immune system handles it. I mean, that's what it all comes down to. So, you have to keep that balanced. And the problem with COVID, which most people don't realize, it's an overreaction of the immune system. What it causes is what's called a cytokine storm. Now, what is that cytokine? You have this storm inside you. Your body basically overreacts to that virus in your lungs. And what happens as a result? It creates this inflammation, and it can block the channels there, block and congest the lungs. I'm not going to get into the scientific aspect of it that much, but what you need to do, the system needs to be modulated. One of the main causes of most degenerative disease today is called inflammation. You have to balance that inflammation. You need a little bit, you get hurt, you hurt your leg or you get a cut, whatever, you're going to have inflammation. It's going to take all your healing cells there to heal that area, right? It's the same with when you're affected or exposed to a virus or a bacteria. It's going to activate your immune system. It's the same with you. We have too many toxins in your body. Look at arthritis, look at even psoriasis. Now with psoriasis, let's get back to that. Keep in mind, your skin is the body's largest eliminator. Everybody thinks, oh, I go to the toilet every day, I sweat sometimes, my nose runs sometimes. Those are all great means of elimination. Every time you breathe, you're getting rid of some toxins, okay? So there's many channels, but your skin is the body's #1 and the largest eliminator. Toxins are going to come out through that skin. That's one of the keys. Now you can put all the topicals on there you want, and maybe anti-inflammatories and steroids and all that. It may help, but you're not getting to the source of the problem. You've got to detoxify. You've got to balance that immune system. You've got to reduce that inflammation. And the Cell Age Plus is fantastic because we have some of the best anti-inflammatories available in the world in this product. And that's one of the keys, not only for psoriasis, but practically every condition. It's very interesting. I hear psoriasis is so much more in Asia than even America, but and a lot of it has to do, of course, with the diet. And America is the fast food capital of the world, probably, but Asia is probably one of the sweetest, sweetest tubes, or one of them anyway, and a lot of fat, a lot of oils, a lot of fried foods and things of that nature. So those are things you have to look at about how you congest the liver. And I always say this, I never want to ever fail. I can just tell all of you who are smokers that it's the worst thing you can do for your health. Absolutely the worst thing. There are natural tobaccos available in the world, especially in America. I used to have a organic tobacco farm in Kentucky. And many years ago, tobacco is actually a medicinal herb, believe it or not. It can be very helpful in moderation. But when you're smoking it with at least 100 toxic carcinogenic chemicals in it, what do you think that's going to do to your body? Not just your lungs, I'm talking about your liver and your whole body, and clogging your arteries and leading to Alzheimer's even, because it's going to clog the brain cells, the synapses. So whatever you do, if you do smoke, try to cut back as much as you can. Try to smoke natural tobacco without all the chemicals. And also drinking should be in moderation. I mean, I love a little sake or a little wine now and then. I mean, it's enjoyable, but the key here is moderation, and it can even be healthy. There's so many studies out there now. Of course, it's probably funded by the Wine Association of the world, but they've done some great studies to show that wine's high in resveratrol, especially the grapes, so the red grapes, the purple grapes. So it has benefits in moderation. I always tell people both my grannies lived to be almost 100, and they probably lived much longer if it hadn't been for some medical intervention. But anyway, one had a hot toddy every night before she went to bed, which is a little bit of Kentucky bourbon, a little bit of honey, and it was always hot, which is interesting because now they're saying do one of the best preventatives and maybe even best treatments, not the best, but a treatment for COVID and the virus is warm water throughout the day, particularly green tea, warm green tea with lemon, which is interesting. I have lemon lime water continuously throughout the day and green tea every morning and sometimes throughout the day, always warm. Don't drink cold drinks. I'm just telling you, cold drinks are the worst thing you can have with your food. I mean, it may seem like it's cooling, but it's not. It's suppressing your digestive enzymes and therefore it's creating more havoc in your digestive system. If you're not digesting your food properly, you're creating toxins. I can tell you 100 different toxins that you create in your colon and in your body if you're not metabolizing your food properly. I mean, one prime condition of this is with Alzheimer's, they call it the rogue proteins. And those are a result, they basically clog the synapses. I mean, it's much more technical and scientific than that, but you've got to communicate between the cells in the brain. And when that doesn't happen, the cells die. And that it's a big result of that. A culprit is what's called rogue proteins. You can look that up. But a lot of it has to do with not eating the right kind of proteins and not digesting them properly. So keep that in mind. So with regards to the psoriasis, you really need to detox. You need to clean the colon. Keep in mind, if your colon isn't moving a couple of times a day, or at least a good bowel movement a day, that's backing up through what's called the portal venous system into your liver. Your liver has hundreds of jobs it performs. It's your hazardous waste processing plant. The colon is the elimination plant, but that's your hazardous waste processing plant. And the more congested it gets, the less effective it is. So you got to clean out your liver. Every once in a while, do a liver cleanse. I try to do it every 3 months. I probably should do it once a month, but simple liver cleanses are available on the internet. You don't have to do anything extreme. I tell all my patients in the past, don't do anything extreme. Don't stop eating the diet you're eating. Never stop your drugs you're taking in an instant. Always wean off. Always change gradually. Any disease has taken years to develop. Okay, it doesn't happen overnight unless you're in a car accident or something like that, of course. But that's an accident. That's not a disease. And you can have acute diseases. You can have, chronic diseases. But the key there is it's taken years to develop. Don't expect it to just disappear overnight. One question I get, and I understand it too. I don't feel that Cell Age Plus is a detoxifier. It's more of a processor that is going to enable your body, assist your body, and give your body the ingredients and the tools it needs to be able to process these toxins. Now, one thing that can happen as a result, somebody who's very toxic, it may make them feel a little uncomfortable. I mean, there used to be a saying, you have to feel worse before you get better. Well, I don't believe that, but it can happen. And you have to understand that you've got to get the crap out. There's this great book by, what was his name? Well, it's called Detox or Die. And it's just an excellent book. Norman, anyway, he lived to be 110, I think it was. My mentor at 107, he just, one night he was going to bed and he told his wife, he says, "Good night, honey." She says, "Good night." He says, "I mean, goodbye." She says, "What are you talking about? Go to sleep." He says, "Okay." And he went to sleep and he left. I mean, he chose the day he wanted to die. He just felt like his body was enough. He probably could have lived another 20 years, but my body's seen enough. I've done enough in this world. So we have that choice, but we've got to work on that. It takes a little change and transformation, possibly.
Yes, and patience, of course.
Yes.
All right, thank you very much, Dr. Mark. And then the next question would be, how does Cell Age Plus help to improve purpura?
Help to improve what?
Purpura.
Spell it.
Purpura.
Good question. What are their symptoms with the purpura? Purpura can have different symptoms.
Yes, it's usually what we see is the purple color kind of patches on the skin.
Well, that can also be rosacea. It can be many things, but if it is purpura, and that's why I was asking, because it can even be bruising. It's difficult to, and it's possibly been diagnosed. The great thing about Cell H Plus is it's going to increase your circulation. It's going to open up the blood vessels, and that's one of the keys. That's going to prevent stroke. It's going to prevent ischemia. It's going to keep the blood flowing, keep the circulation going, keep oxygen. Going to carry the oxygen in the red blood cells where it needs to go. Usually purpura is a lack of oxygen in the veins. You know, they've actually been blocked. So is my understanding. It's been, gosh, maybe 30 years since I've heard about purpura, but I'm not practicing that much these days. But anyway, so it's going to help in that respect, and also purpura can be inflammation. As I said earlier, almost all diseases have a inflammatory precursor to them. So you have to look at what that inflammation may be that's causing that. But also you need to open up your circulation. Usually it has to do with the cells there, the cells not having the proper circulation and not enough oxygen. And that's the key.
All right. Thank you so much, Dr. Mark. And then the next question would be, how does Cell H Plus help to improve thalassemia?
That's a good one. I lived in Thailand for a while, and thalassemia, it's a genetic disease, and it's very, what should I say? I don't want to call it epidemic, pervasive in Thailand, Laos, Cambodia, and probably Burma too, and maybe in Malaysia. I haven't been practicing. I never practiced when I was in Malaysia, except 30 years ago. And we had a clinic in Malacca, but I didn't see much thalassemia then either, though. But we were treating degenerative disease. We were mostly working with heart disease and diabetes and cancers, and so we didn't see many of these. But thalassemia has a lot to do with the liver. Okay, it has a lot to do, of course, with the red blood cells. We have seen wonderful results in Thailand. And I would say there again, it has to do with the body being able to balance itself. I'll be honest, I don't know what causes thalassemia. That is a mystery to me, and I think it's a mystery to just about everybody, or they would cure it. I mean, I would love to know more about it. We did have wonderful results with various patients, particularly kids, young kids with thalassemia, and being able to reduce it so they wouldn't have to have as much blood taken. But it's all a matter of modulation. I would say thalassemia is an inflammatory response to something, and there again, reducing the inflammation is going to be the key and is going to help. What I would do with thalassemia, and I haven't had a thalassemia patient since we developed the Cell H Plus, is start off small. Start off with maybe even half to one sachet a day, and see how that goes for a week or two. Build up to 2, build up to 3 a day. And I feel you'll see some very, very dramatic results, and particular with energy. I mean, that's one of the keys with Cell H Plus is it's providing the nutrients that your cells need, not only for regeneration, but for energy. They're going to give you the right form of carbohydrates. They're going to give you the right amino acids, but the right bioavailable carbons that your body can convert into energy, into ATP in the mitochondria. So it's going to create more energy with a the cells that the body has with thalassemia are going to function better. And that's going to be one of the keys. And as I said too, getting more oxygen into the system, because it's assisting in the overall function of the lungs and of the heart. And so it's just going to be a benefit overall.
All right. Okay. Thank you so much, Dr. Mark.
This is interesting. These are several conditions that I haven't addressed in probably 30 or 40 years. So yeah, it's challenging. Thank you.
Yeah. So are you ready for the next question?
Always. I'm like the Energizer bunny. You know, I'm ever ready.
Wow, very good. Okay, the next question will be, how does Cell H Plus help to improve pneumothorax?
Pneumothorax.
Yes.
Whoa. Well, these are good ones. Let me think about that. My understanding with pneumothorax is we're looking at a type of pneumonia. And as we said earlier, if we're able to reduce the inflammation in the body and also improving the overall function, particularly with the cilia in the lung, and they're able to handle the mucus buildup, you know, as we breathe, we're constantly taking in toxins, and as a result, we have to get rid of those. And it's the cilia, it's those little hair-like projections in our lungs that do that. If we're creating more, they're going to function better. And you know, I'll be honest, I'll have to look it up. Like I said, it's not practicing on a regular basis. There's certain things that I'll have to look up and get back with them, because I would love to know that myself. But I'll be happy to investigate it and get back with you about what I would feel would be beneficial, but also how Cell H Plus could benefit.
Yes, how?
Yeah.
A lot of the questions today focus on how. Yeah.
Yeah, I like this.
Yes, I like it too.
It's challenging me.
Tonight's Zoom is a little bit different from the past, yeah?
Yeah, I like it. I like being challenged.
Wow, all right, challenge accepted, right?
Yeah, I like being honest too. If I don't know the answer, I'm going to tell them.
All right, okay. The next question will be, how does Cell H Plus help to improve hyperthyroidism and hypothyroidism?
You know, the thyroid is probably one of the most essential glands the body has. I've always told people over the years that, and I was seeing maybe, I would only see 10 or 12 patients a day, because I would spend a lot of time with each one of them, you know, either doing manipulations or giving them nutritional advice or consulting with them in that way about regarding their health. And the thyroid, I always say, and even most scientists will agree, that the thyroid tests you do are really not that accurate. Now, they may show extremes with the TSH, you know, thyroid stimulating hormone, which the higher it is, probably the lower the thyroid, or the lower it is, it can be like, you can have a hyperactive thyroid, which then you're going to have maybe a low TSH. But you need to do so many different tests. You need to do thyroid intake, you need to do the TSH, you need to do T3, T4, T7, all of those to get a really comprehensive look at what's going on. You know, one thing I see in Asia more than I ever saw in America was hyperthyroid, uh, very extreme hyperthyroid. And many times that can be an inflammatory response. It can be an autoimmune response. Right now, there's so many autoimmune diseases out there, and they're being attacked. One thing we found, well, I'll get into testing first. With regards to testing, with everybody, I would have them do what's called the Barnes thyroid test, BARNES thyroid test. And it's under the tongue, under the arm, and you can look it up on the internet. It's Rhoda Barnes, she developed it. It should be between centigrade, I forgot, Fahrenheit 97.8 to 98.2, but you can look it up in centigrade too. And probably 95 to 98% of the women I tested in my practice in America had a hypothyroid. Very, very interesting. I mean, what we used to do is we would give thyroid glandular and pituitary glandular and all of that so that we could start stimulating. But a thyroid glandular in a natural source, not a synthroid. With synthroid, I don't want to knock synthroid because many people balance it, but it helps the doctor be able to regulate and control it. But what you see with many people who do synthroid is they may start getting decalcification, they may start becoming obese. So it shows that the thyroid isn't doing all the functions that it should be doing. Now, the thyroid is so valuable. It helps with the oxygenation, it helps with circulation, it helps with calcium absorption and utilization with the parathyroids and all of that. And it also is very, very susceptible to radiation. One thing that's happening now, and I'm probably one of the big culprits right now, is all of the computer we're doing and the cell phones, are radiating us continuously. But also there's things like mercury fillings, which we've shown a direct correlation. There's this beautiful video, not beautiful, a video that shows that if you have amalgam fillings, which amalgams are mercury, okay, I mean, that's the real villain there is the mercury, and mercury is deadly. I mean, that's all there is to it. I could get into that about how it affects the ATPase and it kills cells and has so many other functions and dysfunctions. But they showed this gas going continuously, almost continuously, particularly if somebody was chewing, from the mercury fillings draining right down into the thyroid. And the dysfunction that happens, particularly hypothyroid and maybe even hyperthyroid with that. And so those are just things you have to take into consideration. Now, with Cell Age Plus, what you're doing is, like I said, you're lowering the inflammation. This is one of the keys. And that's why I keep harping on this word. And so with that balancing and modulating, we call it, of the immune system, of the body, and improving circulation, then you're going to improve the overall function of the thyroid. Now, keep in mind too, the thyroid needs specific nutrients. It needs the right minerals and electrolytes. And we've got one of the best sources of natural minerals and electrolytes in the world in the organic wheatgrass powder that we add to it, and a lot of other things in there as well. And so that is just what's really key. And exercise too. You just got to get circulation going, and it's not going to circulate when you're sitting on the couch, or just sitting in front of a computer all day. You really got to get the blood flowing. And even if you can just get up and jog in place, it's wonderful. I had another mentor, Dr. Cliff Robertson, who I worked with for about 5 years, an old osteopath. He lived to be 98. And he died in a car accident, which is unbelievable. Well, from result of it. But anyway, he always say, if you rest, you rust. And at lunchtime, when we were at our clinic, he'd get out, he'd eat, and he'd go walking in the woods. We have a place called a Clinic in the Woods, and he'd just go walking for about a half hour and come back every day, winter or summer, and healthy as a horse. So you've got to get that circulation going regardless. But with the thyroid, you've got to get good beneficial substances like good iodine and such, and not so much salt. I mean, this salt, commercial salt, is just one of the most toxic substances you can eat.
Yeah.
And they say, oh, we put iodine in it, that's to prevent serious goiter. But and that's a problem in many areas that don't have enough iodine in the soil. But now foods come from all over the world, so it's not as bad as it used to be. But commercialized salt is just horrific, and so many foods contain it. And then monosodium glutamate, oh, what a toxin, what a poison. So you really have to watch those. Most commercial fast foods have monosodium glutamate, and it's just one of the most toxic substances. That and NutraSweet, good old NutraSweet's the other poison that just destroys your system, just destroys it. I won't get into it tonight. I've got tons and tons of literature and research that shows what a toxin, everything that says diet on it is a toxin to you. You've got to understand that. They've shown studies where individuals, and why I'm saying this is NutraSweet and MSG are very toxic to the thyroid. But they've shown studies where NutraSweet can cause hundreds of different illnesses and people die from it. But they showed in particular that people who drank Diet Pop got fatter and gained more weight than people who drink regular Coca-Cola.
I heard before as well.
Huh?
I heard before as well.
Yes, which is interesting because every pop has about the equivalent of 9 teaspoons of sugar. Every time you drink a pop, you're drinking about 7 to 9 teaspoons of sugar. Can you imagine putting that much in your coffee or your tea? That's what you're consuming, okay? And so, Donald Trump, they said, drank how many Diet Pops a day? I think it was a dozen or something. And look at his body. Oh my God, he's just like this whale, Diet didn't help him much, did it? But anyway, that's another story. So with thyroid, that's the key, is you're going to start feeding it. And I think you're going to start showing a balance. You should do your underarm temperature to see. Very seldom do you see hyperthyroid. Equivalent is probably 5% or less. More in Asia for some reason. I haven't figured that out. But yeah. But the hypometabolic thyroid, it makes you tired. Hypometabolic thyroid. You don't get as good circulation. It can create so many problems. It actually directs, particularly for females, it has a direct effect on your ovaries and your total hormone production. It's a key part of that. So that's why it's so important to have a functioning thyroid. Now, keep in mind, if you're just taking Synthroid, you're only getting one of the hormones. Only one. You're not getting the synergist. That's why we used to recommend. And think about bioidentical hormones because they're beneficial. With all of that. I'm not saying if you're on Synthroid, get off of it. I don't get into medical reasoning and their patient involvement because it may be working for them. But I can just say there are options that you should look at these days with regards to the thyroid. Get more seaweed for one, which is fantastic. And you have great availability to seafood and seaweed here.
Okay, yeah. So from what I understanding is that besides consuming Cell H Plus, at the same time, the patient should also take care of their lifestyles and also the way they consume food, the nutrition part of it, correct?
Absolutely. That's the key. And the right attitude in life. Exercise and the right attitude.
Exercise,
so important. And you have to lower stress. That's one of the keys. I just had a lady do her dissertation, her PhD dissertation on stress and the effect it has in the body. And even I was just astonished. I'm going, whoa, I didn't know it had that much influence. And she showed the chemical correlations and the hormonal imbalances that happen as a result of stress. And then, of course, we got into the treatments and the protocols for dealing with it. And but everybody should do things like Qigong or Tai Chi or yoga or whatever, just some kind of stretching exercises. You can get them off the internet. It doesn't have to be extreme. 5-10 minutes a day, and you're getting some good exercise that you need It's essential. Why not do that for your body? We do so many things for our mind, whether it's watch Netflix or whatever.
Yes, I know, right?
Or you can be taking 5 minutes throughout the day
Mhm.
just to stretch, exercise, breathe. Breathing is so important. When I was practicing, and this is a big thing with the thyroid, you find people who have thyroid problems are not good breathers. They are not good breathers. And you can almost find that invariably. I would have them on my table and I would hold their belly, and their belly wouldn't even move when they were breathing. It was just like fixed. I'm going, wait a minute, you're not breathing. You're breathing in like about 5 to 10% of your lungs. You need to breathe into 100% so that you're getting the oxygen throughout your body into your brain. They found this in Alzheimer's too. They did a study. It wasn't a very extensive one to show that they could not find one Alzheimer's patient who was a good breather. Isn't that interesting? They didn't get the oxygen to the brain. Many of them are smokers too, so you have to watch that.
I see. All right. Yeah. So we have a question regarding the thyroid. So this customer, she has been consuming the Cell H Plus for a year now, but then the thyroid has become hyperactive. So what would be your advice to help her improve the conditions? Is it like just now what you have mentioned in terms of lifestyle, in terms of nutrition intake, and so on? And also do a few more tests to have a more comprehensive pictures of the conditions?
Absolutely. I don't know the age. I don't know to what extreme it's hypermetabolic thyroid. It's quite a range there to know, but you need to look at the synergists. Synergists are what you need to be able to use that thyroid. For some reason, you're overproducing one of the thyroid hormones, and so you need to do a really thorough, complete panel. They're not cheap. That's the problem with it. Hopefully your insurance will cover it if you have that or whatever. But yeah, you need to look at that and find out why, you have hypermetabolic thyroid. I don't feel it could be the Cell H Plus, but what I always tell people is if you think it's that, stop it. See what happens for a week. See if it comes down. So then you'll know what could be happening there is, yes, you're producing more thyroxine or whatever it may be, but you may not have the synergists, which synergists are like, how do I explain it? You have a government and you have a prime minister. And if you don't have all the deputies, you don't have a functional country, right?
Yes,
You've got to
we
have
get
this
the picture.
team. It's the same with the
Yes.
thyroid. You've got to have all these supports, but what you have to have are particular nutrients that enable you to utilize that thyroxine, to be able to absorb it and then use it properly, or it can just float around your blood.
Yes, yeah. So I think there are a lot of factors that would affect and also influence the conditions of the patients. So I think there are many different aspects that she would need to take a look on it to improve, correct?
Absolutely. And really do some really thorough testing, because that's the key. And what you should do too is your underarm thyroid. It only takes like a few minutes in the morning to test it before you get out of bed. But just look it up, BARNES thyroid test. Everybody in the world can do it. It's cheapest test you can do in the world, and probably one of the most insightful as to what's going on in your system.
Okay, thank you so much, Dr. Mark. And then the next question would be, how does Cell H Plus help with spinal diseases such as sclerosis?
Scoliosis?
Yeah, scoliosis.
Well, scoliosis,
Yeah.
SCOLIOSIS, right?
Yes, the S bone, yes.
Yes, the S bone. Very hard to correct because that's a very long-term situation. It depends whether that was genetic or whether it was you were born with it, or if it developed over a period of time, how extreme that scoliosis may be. I'm a chiropractor as well, a trained chiropractor and osteopath, and you can get some correction with scoliosis. And the beneficial part about the Cell H Plus is I can say you may never correct scoliosis. I mean, I have scoliosis to a certain extent. I was born with it, but it's never affected me in an extreme way. I mean, I'm still a basketball player at age 70, so
Wow.
I'm a go-getter. So I hope I'll never have to stop. But and other things too, and you can correct it a little bit. You should definitely do some yoga tai chi. You need to really strengthen all of those ligaments beside it, and all of the soft tissue, the fascia, all of that's so important. And keep it circulating. If you have a little bit of a curvature, okay, let's call this the tree. If that tree is curved, it's going to block some of the limbs going out of there, for some reason. You want to have a nice straight tree, and all the juices flow. If it has a little detour, then it's going to somewhat impinge that area. And then maybe you won't have as good a fruit come off of that limb out there, or maybe you could, but you need to increase your circulation into those areas and strengthen that area, because it's going to be a little bit weaker. To totally correct it, I mean, everything's possible. I've seen incredible, what they call miracles on this planet with scoliosis and such, but it's going to take a lot of posturing. You're going to have to really work on your posture. I don't know what age you are. That means a lot as well. And I've seen people with such extreme scoliosis, lordosis, kyphosis. Kyphosis is like this. They live to 80, 90, and they're still healthy. So don't worry about it so much, decreasing your lifespan, as it really affects your overall way of life. And you may need to get some good chiropractic or naturopathic or Chinese manipulations and such, because it can help. It helps to open up the circulation there. But you can do a lot of yourself through, and I will say Cellulose Plus will help, because it'll help strengthen those areas. It'll help nourish all the soft tissue in there to make it stronger, increase the nerve flow, the function of the nervous system there. So all those factors are very important with scoliosis.
Yes, I've heard before that yoga does help, because by stretching your bones, and then you eventually have to strengthen not just the bones and also the muscle as well. And then the other thing that I heard before is perhaps physiotherapies, and also by wearing the body cases, just like how we put braces along our teeth.
Oh, yes.
Yes, yes, the body cases. I think that would help. How about if, let's say, the patient is quite maybe 60 and above? Do you think it would still improve her conditions a bit, perhaps?
Absolutely. Everything you say is so right on. Now, I'm not so much, well, let's say this. Yoga is not a religion. Let me go back to that, because that came up today, interesting, in one of my talks. I was talking to another group, and there was this thing that, well, yoga is a religion. I'm a different religion. It's not a religion. It's basically an exercise. It's a practice. You can call it anything you want. They call it yoga because that's what's gotten the most popularity. But you can just call it stretching, whatever it may be. But with regards to braces, I'm not so hot on them, and this is why. I think some people may need them, and it may support the system. But when you support the system artificially, then what happens is the musculature there gets lazy. It gets atrophy, because you have another support system that's there. And that's why even with things like Synthroid and many of the drugs that create like a function of that organ, of that gland, what happens, that organ or gland tends to atrophy. It doesn't tend to do its job because it's getting this other source. And so it won't function quite as well in the long term. And the same thing can happen with the body structure. You can wear the brace when you need it, particularly when you need protection. I see a lot of people when I'm out hiking. I don't jog, because I feel jogging is, and I know a lot of people differ with me, but particularly on pavement. If you're jogging in the jungle, fantastic, it's soft, or on the beach. But on the pavement, it's very traumatic, constantly. Every time you go for a jog, you're creating this little injury to the microcapsules there of the veins and such in your body and your joints. I mean, and heavier you are, of course, the more the compaction you're creating and trauma and stress and inflammation. So you need to keep that in mind. I like fast walking myself. I think that's important, except when I'm on the basketball court and I go crazy. But that's, that's only a couple of days a week now. But so very important. And if you do jog, be sure to take some time to let your body adjust. Let all those micro capsules there, all capillaries and such, let them regenerate, let the tissues regenerate. Let the inflammation dissipate some. So very important. There again with braces, I think occasionally they're fine, but I don't recommend them long term because, like I say, that muscle that's supporting it there, that's supposed to be doing its job, won't be getting the exercise. So, you just have to take that into moderation. Like I said earlier, it's all a matter of moderation, knowing when and where and how long to support it.
Yes. All right. Thank you, Dr. Mark. And then the next question would be, how does Cell H Plus help with uric acid?
I'm sorry, help what?
Urine acid.
Uric acid?
Yes.
Well, uric acid, first thing you have to look at, of course, number one is diet. I mean, that's the key, and kidney function, of course, and all of that. But you got to look at the diet. Unfortunately, probably Asians may have higher uric acid than anybody in the world, and I won't get into it too much about the diet, but you just really got to watch your pork and watch a lot of those other foods as well. But one thing it can do there again is it help balance alkalinity. Like they call it uric acid for a reason, uric acid, right? And it has a lot to do with the kidneys and their function and how much it can eliminate. Drink more water, no doubt about it. I mean, I've never seen a gout person who drank enough water. And I don't like to over dilute the body, but I think sometimes it's essential, and you got to make sure you're getting enough at the right times of day and the right kind of water. When I was in Malaysia, the best water, I'm not promoting them and I don't own the company, whatever. I mean, reverse osmosis is okay, but mostly our own, in particularly in Kuala Lumpur, you're still drinking city water. I mean, that's where they get it from. And so a lot of chemicals it'll never take out. Probably, and I may be wrong, but the one I found best was the good old jungle water, the spritzer. I mean, you have to order it in, but it actually tasted a lot better too, and it didn't turn the bathtub green like this. It was so interesting. I remember when I was in Kuala Lumpur, and they had the problem with the what do they call it? Not the sewage system, but the water system. And all the water was shut off for a while. So I went, oh, I better save a bunch. So I filled up the bathtub. 3 days later, it turned this yucky green. And then when I let it out, there was all this brown residue around the rim. I mean, I went, oh my God, I was drinking that water. Anyway, that's just a little sideline.
Unforgettable experience in KL.
Yes, yeah. Well, it's everywhere in the world, though. Actually, Tricia, it's not just KL, but it's everywhere. But it was just an experience directly I had. I mean, before I always lived on farms and out in the boonies, and pretty much most of the time had a spring or had my own underground well, whatever. But anyway, so with regards to uric acid, first thing to do is get online and look at the gout diet. That is so important. You've got to eliminate those foods. If you don't, the Cell H Plus is going to benefit it because it's going to improve your kidney function overall, and also your elimination with the sun fiber and things like that. And uric acid causes inflammation in the joints. I've had several people with gout, and whenever they took the Cell H Plus, oh, I could keep eating what I want because the Cell H Plus helped me with my inflammation. It's not hurting as bad anymore. But uric acid creates inflammation. They're crystals, they get into your tissues, they get into the blood, and it circulates, and it just creates these little irritants. It's like imagining having these little pieces of glass just circulating through your system. Uric acid crystals is what they call them. So that's one of the keys. And there again, it goes back to inflammation, and having the wonderful products we have, the ingredients we have with the one of the foremost curcumins, turmerics in the world. one thing I want to say about Cell Age Plus, and I'm just so impressed with the company, is they did not want to even compromise not one ingredient. You know, you can always find cheaper ingredients. I mean, they're all over the world. We went with the best curcumin. We went with the best quercetin. You know, all of those, every ingredient in there, the Sexaplex, the sesame. We didn't go with sesame seed. We went with the best extracts and the highest ratio extracts. So Cell Age Plus is not just a herbal formula. It actually has extracts in it. And for some, it may be too strong. And they need to build up gradually to be able to accumulate and fully utilize it. But the other thing about Cell Age Plus, it's not going to cure any disease. I always say that, and will forever say that. It's not a drug, it's a food. And many times, you know, I've had individuals with the Cell Age Plus say, hey, my doctor says I can't take this, you know, it's got too many herbs in it. Well, that's fine. You have to listen to them. And it says, oh, you better not take this, you know, because you've got this condition. But I go back and I say, wait a minute, are they also telling you not to eat? I said, this is a food. It's a food substance that we've been able to put into a sachet, a concentrated sachet. And always, you've got to drink more water, enough water when you're taking Cell Age Plus. I find that's a key too, because it is a dry powder and you need to dilute it. You know, you need to dilute it in order for it to function better. You know, you take any powder and you're going to need to dilute it with water in order to be able to, to have a sip. Drink to your health. Yeah. So very important.
Yeah, I've been drinking on and off.
Good drinking. So yeah, that's the thing about uric acid.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Mark. The next question will be, how does Cell Age Plus help with acid reflux?
Acid reflux. It goes back to, if this individual was online earlier, we were talking about the digestive capabilities of the body. It goes back to, and I always get into the simplistics, you got to chew your food first, or you're going to get acid reflux. It's just a given, you know. You've got to look at how you combine foods. You know, you don't want to mix fruit with vegetables. You don't want to drink cold water. All of those are so essential. When it gets into Cell Age Plus, even one of the ingredients is shown to increase the beneficial flora throughout the colon by up to 400%. But now we're talking about acid reflux happening in the stomach area. It doesn't even get down to the colon when you're going to have it. Also, the small intestine. People can get acid reflux with small intestine malabsorption and indigestion. But for one, you need to look right away at how you're combining foods. But the great thing about Cell Age Plus, one, is going to provide the right nutrients, the right amino acids to form the enzymes. All those enzymes are made from amino acids, practically all of them. So you've got to have the right form of those in order to be able to form enough. You know, there's over, how many thousands of enzymes in the body. Everybody thinks, oh, well, there's hydrochloric acid, there's lipase for digesting fats, there's protease for digesting protein, you know, there's the lactose for milk, and then there's the carbohydrate enzymes, and they don't think about any other enzymes. Enzymes are the catalyst for every function in the body. Even the cell functions on enzymes. And what most people don't realize is antioxidants. I mean, they're the key for preventing degenerative disease, particularly cancers and other degeneration of the cell because of free radicals. Alzheimer's even is a result of free radicals. It's attacking, killing the cells. So what's so important with that is even antioxidants are enzymes. Okay, it's ACE, lipase, protease, you know, ACE. ACE, what are antioxidants? Superoxide dismutase, glutathione, they're enzymes. All enzymes in the body require the right combination of amino acids, bioavailable amino acids, which form a protein, to produce them. We have just even one ingredient in it, many of them do, but one in particular that just provides pure bioavailable amino acids for forming the enzymes in the body. Now, why am I getting into this? Because enzymes are the key with acid reflux. One of the keys, of course, chewing is a big one, but even and food combinations and what you're eating, of course, is going to affect acid reflux naturally. I mean, that's a given. But and don't drink too much with your meals. I mean, that can even dilute your digestive enzymes, so they're not going to work as well. But what do people do? You know, a big glass of tea, big Coca, not everybody, even a lot of people, big Coca-Cola, big lemonade, whatever it may be, you know, to go with their meals. This is just a given that they're going to have digestive problems because they're diluting those digestive juices, you know, which have to work in a certain temperature as well as a certain concentration to do their job. So to metabolize the food properly. And I will say this, as we get older, we may need to supplement with additional enzymes, you know, from food digestive enzymes. It just may be because you may have degenerated your capacity. The glands may be wore out that create those enzymes. So it may be totally impossible to do. So you may have to supplement. But then as you're supplementing with digestive enzymes, what can happen is those glands can regenerate and develop because they're not working as hard. And with Cell Age Plus, you're actually able to regenerate those cells because it's a cell regenerator. Some of you, this may be your first time, and so I'll just briefly cover that this just isn't an immune formula. This just isn't an anti-inflammatory. This formula contains ingredients in there have been shown to increase stem cells in the body by up to 4 times in only 5 hours. 5 hours. I did research, well, we did research, Dr. Steele and I, in America and in Asia, because I wanted 2 different groups of people. And well, we did 5 hour, then we did 5 day, 10 day, 30 day, 60 day, 1 year. We did tests all the way down the line as well as blood chemistries, but we were testing stem cells, CD34, CD117, CD145 to show the increase. That way we got all the different kinds of stem cells. Well, I gave them a double dose. Each one had about a dozen participants, and we were at the hospital and had to draw their blood, and I said, okay, come back in 5 hours, go out, eat, do whatever what you want to do, just normal life. Come back in 5 hours, we're going to take your blood again. And so they came back and took the blood again. And we got the results. And I was in Asia at the time, and Dr. Steele was in America at Johns Hopkins. And I looked at this and went, something's wrong here. I said, this is impossible. How can you increase your stem cells in your body? Some people up to 4 times, most only double, triple. I mean, not everybody, just 1 or 2 went up to 4 times. And they were actually the ones who needed the most. One who had been in a car accident, and the other one, I forget what it was, but regardless. And so I called her, I said, hey, this can't be right. She said, oh, this is perfect. So what are you talking about? She said, well, you have to understand, everybody has billions and billions of stem cells that are hibernating. They've gone to sleep, you know, they're not operating, they're not functioning. It says we woke them up. They got the nutrients they needed to come alive and to be able to function again. So you've got billions of what are called hibernates, like a bear that goes, you know, and I've always used this, a bear that goes into the cave in the wintertime because it's smart. It knows it's not going to get, you know, the food it needs, so it just shuts down. Well, your stem cells do that in your body. They know too. They know that, hey, I'm not getting the right nutrients I need. I'm just going to go to sleep, you know. Hopefully I'll get them someday and I can come back and play. Yeah. In the meantime, I'm just going to go to sleep. And that's what happened. And that's why it woke up these stem cells. There's no way the body can produce that many that quick. It's just unimaginable. But then over 5 days, 10 days, 30 days, we just saw a gradual increase. Now, the great thing, I just want to say this because it's so important, because if there's anybody out there who's doing stem cell research, well, you don't want to have too many stem cells. That's the problem with stem cell therapies today. They can't control how much they're giving you. That can be a problem. It's not the problem. It can be a problem. And then too many can create problems. You know, they can actually mutate and they can cause problems. We won't get into it. But what we saw is after certain people, after a given amount of time, they start leveling off. And I was all been out of shape again because I'm not a stem cell researcher. I definitely wasn't at that time. This was like 10 years ago, I think. And so I called Dr. Ann, the authority. She's probably the #1 stem cell researcher in the world. I mean, she developed the heart stem cell for heart transplants at Johns Hopkins. She built the stem cell laboratories there. I mean, we're just unbelievably fortunate and blessed to have her on our team, such an expert. I called her. I said, Dr. Ann, my gosh, we got a problem. Well, what is it now, Dr. Mark? Well, things are leveling off. It's like it was rising. Now all of a sudden I'm getting these results that it's leveling off. And she says, oh, that's wonderful. I said, what are you talking about? She says, we don't want them to keep growing. Says now what the body's doing is taking those nutrients and rather than creating new stem cells, it's using it for energy. It's using it to create regular cells. It's using it for other purposes rather than just create stem cells. So that was what's so wonderful about it. So I don't know if I got off track there. The question was acid reflux, right? But I went off on a different tangent.
Yeah, I think the concept is that everything is about balance, right? Too much is not good, too less is not good, but balance is the most perfect condition.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, so regarding just now you mentioned about the food for our stem cell. So there's also a question asking if let's say today we stop eating cell H plus, so stem cells has no food, right? So what would happen? Is it we must always eat cell H plus to keep them active?
No, you're creating new stem cells every day. You may start, you won't regenerate as fast. You may not have as much longevity. They may not have as much resistance to disease. They'd be more susceptible. We were having a talk, I guess it was 2 days ago. Well, time flies. I think it was 2 days ago. No, it was yesterday morning with a couple of your doctors, and we were talking about, we were talking about a lot of things, but what came up was that I really, and I would like to hear if it's otherwise, know the conditions and the situation. I'm sure it's somebody who probably has some serious degenerative disease, but I haven't heard of anybody. How long have we had the product on the market now, Tricia?
More than a year.
A year and a half, I think, right? Almost.
Yes, we launched last year, July.
September, October, November. Yeah, 5 months.
Yeah, almost anyway. 1.5 years.
Yeah, I haven't heard in the last year or whenever of anyone having a serious COVID condition.
Yes.
It's okay to get sick. I mean, the flu can be wonderful. I'm gonna hear everybody go, "What? How can the flu be?" Flu is a way of detoxifying the body. Okay. Why does it always happen mostly during the winter time? And of course, people are more enclosed, blah, blah, in certain environments, but why is it happening throughout the year? And it's a detoxifier, the fever kills toxins. And I had a clinic and a center in Mexico, and we used hyperthermia to cure cancer, to help cancer. I don't want to ever say cure, to help cancer, because we raised the body temperature so high to a certain level, where not to hurt brain cells, but a certain level to kill the microbes, the bacteria, the pathogens in the system. It could be fungus, it could be whatever, because cancer can be fungus, can be viral, can be bacterial. It can be it can be result of many different pathogenic microorganisms or just toxins, whatever. Kill the toxins, get rid of the toxins in the body. So fever, all that. The flu can be beneficial, but you want to keep it in check. You want to keep all that in balance. And so it can be okay, all right, for people to get that. What most people don't realize, and I'll probably get in trouble for this, but I don't think they're going to come throw me in jail because of it, but they haven't yet.
Touch wood. Cross.
No, come on. No, this is common knowledge. There's tens of thousands of doctors who can vouch for this and say this as well. America, it's just evidence. It's prime example. America is the most flu vaccinated country in the world. There may be some European countries that may have a higher ratio per people, and I'd like to see their compare. I haven't seen a comparison, but you have to understand, every year, 30 to 90,000 people die in America from the flu every year. You don't hear about that every year, do you? No, but we're the most vaccinated country in the world. Right now, we're probably one of the highest vaccinated countries in the world. Why do we have the highest rate by far? Way beyond anybody else in the world. England is another example. France is another example. You know, it's like you got to look at feeding the immune system. I mean, it's okay if you need to get vaccinated. That's your choice. But you also should do everything you can for your immune system on your own. You know, many people get vaccinated and it doesn't have as much of an effect because their immune systems are not strong enough to be able to build the antibodies. So it's you know, you still have to have the right nutrients to be able to do so. And that's what is so important. Now, they're getting back to the question, and I'm not getting too far off track here. I'm coming back. See, I don't have Alzheimer's, and I'll never get it, I guarantee you. But and what we need to look at there is, yes, you may not have as much energy, because what's happened now with this product is you're going to have more energy. You're going to regenerate. I've seen so many people look younger, feel younger. And one thing, it's too bad. I wish there was a gauge, you know, or some way of determining. They always equate things and measure things on how sick people get, you know, how many cases of illness there are. They don't base things on how many people not get it, you know. It's like how many people prevented, how many people we prevented from getting serious COVID infections. I mean, it's like I say again, and I'll say it over and over, it's okay to have the flu now and then. I know I'll get a crap for this, but it's okay. And you don't want to go around spreading it. And right now it's a serious situation like never before. But you have to realize that we just don't want it to get out of hand. I mean, in all these countries right now, I won't get into it, but we all know there's a lot more cases out there than what they're saying. And, you know, a lot of people who get sick don't go to the hospital, or they don't tell anybody they're sick. And so, but they're home and they recuperate. And sometimes it's one day, sometimes it's a week, you know, but still they're not getting extremely ill and serious condition that could result in death, so, or hospitalization. And I'll go back to say, I have not heard of one person who takes LH plus on a regular basis who's had a serious illness.
Yes, usually when customer ask me, is it I need to consume H plus forever? If let's say I stop it one day, like, is there any effects on my body and so on? And then usually the way they answer my customer would be that H plus is a food, right? Like you say, it's not a drugs, it's not a medicine. So just imagine if let's say every day we need to take 3 meals, right? Yeah, so imagine if today you didn't take any meal, you didn't drink any water, and then you continue for 7 days. So how would your body feel? Would you feel tired, or would you faint, right? Yeah, so it's the similar concept when it goes back to our stem cells. So H plus is a food for our stem cells. So if let's say you didn't feed it for 1 day or 1 week, so your stem cell, they will feel tired as well. Right? That's why our clinical research shows that our stem cells will be active from 30 days to 60 days. So if let's say after 60 days, you never feed any food to your stem cells, then of course they will be fainting over again. So
you know, they'll probably go back to where they were before, you know. So it's not a matter of it's not like a stimulant like coffee, you know. In fact, we hear a lot, well, I didn't feel anything right away. And also, it's not a stimulant. I mean, that's the key. You don't feel a
Yes.
lot when you eat regular food. If you eat good food, you don't feel maybe a whole lot right away, but over time you'll feel better. If you drink coffee or even tea, of course you're going to feel something quick, but
Mm-hmm.
that's not the most healthy way to live. So this is a sustained energy, and the way I look at it is we're fortunate to be able to have this wonderful synergistic combination of ingredients that have these many benefits. And I don't know if anybody needs to take it the rest of their life, but they should take it now and then, even if they don't take it every day, to regenerate and to make sure that they're getting the proper nutrition they need. I would recommend taking at least a little bit every day. It's just like, well, I never recommend drinking milk, but some people think they have to have milk every day for calcium. This is like you need to have this every day, particularly right now for your immune system, because
Yes.
there's so many things out there that could jeopardize your immune system, and you need to keep it as strong and empowered as possible. So you're very fortunate to have this specific formulation that have been developed not only for the immune system, but for inflammation and getting the stem cells you need to create your immune system. Now, keep in mind, the immune system is what? Cells and bacteria. We have a
Yes.
prebiotic and a probiotic in there to help create the right bacteria throughout your whole GI tract. And that can help improve acid reflux too, as I mentioned earlier, because of the good bacteria. But also, you're looking at, along with that, you're getting the right bacteria, but you're also getting the cells. Immune system is cells, lymphocytes, T cells. Everything
B cells,
about the immune
NK
system
cells.
is cells. You've got to regenerate them. You have to give them the right energy. That's why you're seeing all these people, probably millions who've been vaccinated, who get the flu. Well, they say, well, yeah, but it's not as bad. But well, wait a minute, why, if they're getting all these antigens and messenger RNA, why are they getting sick?
Mm.
Because their bodies are not strong enough to create these antigens and these antibodies that they need, even though they're getting this messenger RNA and spike proteins and all that. We won't get into that. It's too political. But anyway,
All
so
right.
I just, my feeling about it is, yeah, you don't have to take it all the time, but it's certainly going to help you feel better.
Yes, definitely. Thank you, Dr. Mark. Okay, the next question would be, speaking of, just now you mentioned about cancer, right?
Yep.
So, yeah, so regarding cancer patients, how does Cell H Plus help them to improve their conditions?
Well, let me go back and say, like I did earlier, we do not treat any disease, and this is not a medication, so we're not treating any disease. But I can say this, with cancer, you're looking at a mutation and a degeneration. We're looking at the opposite here. We're looking at regeneration. If let's say, and I won't get into chemo and radiation. That's not necessary, but we're looking at how we can give the body life. That's what it's all about. You can get chemo and radiation, but then if you don't get something to regenerate those cells, what's going to happen? So often, and we all know this, we all hear, oh, we cured your cancer, you no more have lung cancer, breast cancer, but now you have liver cancer, you have bone cancer, and it's terminal. So you have to look at this, and say, okay, I still need the right food. Here is something that is the perfect food for regeneration. Um, Sometimes when you're on chemo or radiation, you may not be able to take the product because you're detoxing so much. Oh my gosh, and you have so many chemicals in your body. And that's why people get so sick. They lose their hair, and fortunately some survive. And so in radiation too, you've got to regenerate. That is just the key. Why? How could people feel that if they kill so many cells in their body, which chemo and radiation does, that they shouldn't have something super to regenerate as quick as possible before bad guys come in and take over again? Because, it's like I always tell people this. We all have some cancer cells in our body. We all have these little mutants in our body, you know, but we're able to tolerate them. Like I said, we probably all have the virus. We all have staphylococcus. We all probably have strep. Who knows what all we have in our bodies, but we're able to deal with it. You know, that's just part of living in the system. And this is kind of extreme, but one of the mentors I worked with, and he's one that lived in 98, always used to say, hey, they're our friends. They're in there for a reason. They're in there to clean up the filth. You don't have any filth, you won't have any of them in there, you know? So he had a good point. And but it's all a matter of how you look at that. And so that's pretty much the key. And so with cancer, you're looking at a regeneration of the body, of the cells. This is the key. Everything in our body is a cell. Everything, you know, that creates every reaction. Everything we are in our body has everything to do with cell, cellular function, cellular energy. It all comes from the cell, you know. So what we need to do is provide the best optimal fuel, bioavailable. Bioavailable means food that's easy to absorb, as easy as possible, so you're not challenging the system. And listen, there's a lot of companies out there who have like one product. I won't mention a lot of them, but okay, that's one thing. This has the synergistic balance of many things to help feed and balance all of your systems. So, and just taking one thing, it's always going to need synergies. It's always going to need those things that help support it. So this, not only is it synergistic in that when we did the study, we did full blood chemistries on everybody. Every time we had their blood drawn, it was so expensive. I had a complete blood chemistry, red blood, CBC done. And all I did was balance everybody or made them better. So we know there's nothing negative about this product. And I'll go back to always say, if you don't feel good taking it, cut back. You know, I had one lady who was on chemo and radiation and some other drugs too. And it made her feel quite nauseous. I said, well, cut back. Don't take 3 a day, you know, cut back. Try a half a day, you know, just start slow. There's no, like I said, this disease, you've been degenerative for a long time, my friend, and it's not going to just correct overnight. Don't overwhelm it. Your system can't handle too much at once. Many of us can. I mean, 3 and we feel vibrant, you know, we go, oh yeah, this is the best food I've ever had in my life. I want more. But others, you know, it may just take some time to build up to that level to be as optimally healthy as we are. I'm not bragging, but it's just a situation.
Yeah, speaking of consumption, would there be a difference in terms of the volume of consumption for cancer patients in like maybe a stage 1 compared to like stage 4? So how would you advise the way they consume?
You know, this is one thing I've always told my patients is everybody is different. You know, we all have different constitutions, and you never know what some person will be able to tolerate and another won't. So it's a totally individual thing, and you just have to figure that out yourself. There's no way of knowing. Let's say somebody, it's like pain. Some people feel pain and it's just like, oh my God, it's just like, you know, it's excruciating. Other people have a pain threshold where you could just beat them to death and they won't feel anything, you know, oh, more. But no, I'm kidding.
Yes.
But you know, the situation, as a comparison, some people at stage 1, they may be healthier than somebody at stage 1 who has the same condition. So it's always, you cannot compare people. You have to look at every person as an individual constitution. So they just have to find out for themselves what works for them. And it may take some experimentation.
Yes, thank you, Dr. Mark. And then regarding just now, you mentioned about detoxing, right? So there's a question asking, how should we consume Cell H Plus while we are doing fasting program or body detoxing program?
Toxin for what?
Fasting program or body detoxing program. So this customer, he is undertaking a fasting program.
Yep.
okay, body detoxing program. So how would he incorporate Cell H Plus into his program?
Oh, I see, program.
Yes.
Well, there's so many fasting programs out there. It's hard to
Yes.
say because, you know, some are just a lemon cleanse and some are liver cleanse and some are kidney cleanse and some are major detoxes. And, you know, there's centers in America and in Mexico, they just do nothing but wheatgrass juice, enemas and drinking it. That's all they take for detox. So, and they do get wonderful results. Hippocrates Institute. And then there was, who's the doctor in Mexico? I forget. They put him in jail, but anyway, it's horrible because he was helping so many people. Something clinic. Anyway, so it depends on what program they're doing. If they're doing just a lemon diet, just do the lemon diet. You know, if you're doing that kind of cleanse or just a liver cleanse, just do that. You may want to take a break for a little while. It's actually going to enhance and give you the nutrients you need while you're fasting. It depends on the length of fasting. You know, I never ever had anybody fast over a week. My personal practice. It was just too extreme for most people. You know, unless they're living, you know, out in the woods and they're living in peace and quiet and they have pure water, blah blah, and pure sunshine. Then yeah, oh my God, go 30 days. You're on top of a mountain, you know, like our spiritual masters did, and or living in a cave, and you can fast that long. Otherwise, it can be very hard on the kidneys. It can be very difficult to do that kind of processing too fast. So always take it gradually. That's the key. You know, you've got all the time in your life. And the more you fast, the longer you live. So start off slow and build up, build up, build up. And if you have a program where you can incorporate these Cell H Plus, fantastic, because it's not compromising your liver, it's not compromising your digestion, and it's helping with your elimination. So you have three factors there that are going to be beneficial. So it just depends what you're doing and what purpose your fast is for, and then how this may complement it, whether or not you take it or not.
I see. All right. Thank you, Dr. Mark. And then the next question would be, okay, this customer, she has been consuming Cell H Plus since August, and then until now has been around 4 months, but his migraine has been getting more severe than before. So what would be the explanations to these conditions?
Well, the first thing is if you think the migraines related to Cell H Plus, stop it for a week and see if the migraines dissipate. One thing that can happen is if somebody has a subluxation, their vertebrae is out of place and is constantly, you know, creating a aggravation or a pressure on those nerves. And if you're increasing the circulation with Cell H Plus, maybe it might enhance the migraines. I mean, migraines sometimes are just an oxygen supply to the brain, and there could be other factors that affect it too. Maybe food allergies. You know, you may be becoming more sensitive to wheat, to dairy, to eggs, things of that nature. So you need to look at that aspect. But if you feel it's related to Cell H Plus, just stop it and see if they're dissipated. But you really need to look at correcting the structure there, and it may be a chiropractic thing. It may be an alignment factor that you're getting pressure on certain nerves that are leading to the brain. There again, it could be food allergy. It could be a lot of factors, stress factor. You know, maybe you might need Glenn. Maybe you're doing too much computer. You know, it's so many factors can affect migraines, but you know, look at all those. If you've changed your diet, things of that nature. So everything should be considered there.
Yeah, so I think it's advisable for the customer to do a comprehensive screening, maybe, so that to find out the factors, right?
Yes, absolutely. And if they've started a new medication may cause migraines. So many factors there that they need to consider.
Understand. Okay, thank you, Dr. Mark.
And drink more water.
Pardon?
And drink more water.
Ah, yes, yes. I've been drinking mine as well.
Not you. I mean, I'm talking about that person.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay. Yeah, I know.
Good for you. Good for you, Trisha.
All right. The next question will be, okay, this customer has been eating Sage Plus for around 2 months, and then she feel that the stomach is quite windy.
Quite what?
Quite windy.
Oh, windy, yeah.
Yeah.
Make sure you take enough water. I mean, it all comes down to that. You've got to be able to be sure you're getting enough water when you're taking Cell H Plus, because it's a dry formula, you know, you need to dilute it a little bit. It depends on when you're taking it. That may cause more gas, of course. As their detoxing, their colon is starting to detox. If she's been constipated in the past, then that can create gases. That old fecal matter is breaking loose and decomposing. So all of those are factors, and maybe she's taking it when she's eating her meals with a lot of fluid. All of those could be a result. One thing is certain fibers, particularly the indigestible fibers, can cause gas. We picked one, this particular guar gum, which isn't been proven not to create that that wind, so to speak. So it shouldn't be happening. If it is, you need to look at when you're taking it, maybe taking it by itself, and drinking more water, and maybe cut back a little bit and see if that's what's causing it. That's one of the keys.
Yes, always must start with finding the factors that are causing it so that we can improve it from the root, right?
Yeah, it's called the source, or the etiology, they call it. It's like everything you have to trace to the source. All medical physicians look at the results. I mean, they look at the problem, you know, and they treat the superficial problem rather than looking at what the source of that problem is. We look at the source. So both of them work hand in hand. That's why we call it integrative medicine these days, because we've learned more and more how one of us complements the other and how we can both approach to help that individual. You know, definitely in acute situations, they're going to help more. But in a long-term basis, you know, when you're looking at these other factors as the source of the problem, then you can correct it and help.
All right, understand. Thank you, Dr. Mark. Okay, moving on to the next question would be, how does Cell H Plus help to improve Helicobacter pylori?
You cut out there, Trisha, I'm sorry.
All right, yeah, let me repeat. How does Cell H Plus help to improve Helicobacter pylori?
Helicobacter pylori?
Yeah, pylori.
I will be honest, the only thing it's going to help there is it's going to improve digestion and elimination. But if you have H. pylori bacteria, you're going to need to possibly either do something like colloidal silver or a antibacterial, natural antibacterial, or an antibiotic to get rid of it. And H. pylori, you know, it's actually known to be chronic throughout China right now. I don't call it epidemic, but chronic condition. And it's so contagious. I mean, you kiss somebody or you drink after somebody, you can get it. You know, I think of all the people, and many times I've lectured throughout China, you know, and everybody's doing a Mai Tai, whatever it is, you know, and just choking down, drinking down one after another. And so you think, oh my gosh, but H. pylori is very, very contagious, and more people have it than they realize. You know, the individual who had acid reflux earlier, you should look at maybe a possible H. pylori, Helicobacter pylori infection. Still calling it an infection. It's not so much an infection, even though they've shown it to cause ulcers and such in the GI, in the gut. But you may need to do even an antibiotic. You know, there's so many gentle antibiotics you can do for H. pylori. And they've even said things like ivermectin can be beneficial for it. So, you need to work with your doctor and see, you can test for it. It's easy to test for. It's a saliva test, so, or blood. And so you really need to test and see if that's conditioned. And if it is, and it keeps coming back, then you need to look at how you're being recontaminated, whether it's through a spouse or the children or other sources, because it's highly communicable, apparently, from what I've read.
So
But
how would you
this will help
advise the customer to consume the Cell H Plus? Is it before food or after food to improve?
I always take before food. I do, because I feel I'm going to absorb it more. When I eat food, then it doesn't seem to get as much focus, so to speak. And also, when I drink Cell H Plus, I always put it in a drink, into a smoothie or into something else. And so it's to eat it with food, you're kind of diluting it a little bit. And so I do take it. I take it 15, 20 minutes before a meal usually.
Yes. Thank you, Dr. Mark. And then the next question would be, how does Cell H Plus help with diabetes patients?
Diabetes?
Yes.
Well, there again, we're not treating diabetes. That's one of the keys. But diabetes, it's called metabolic syndrome. It all has to do with cellular function and the body's being able to metabolize carbohydrates, right? Of course, you have to look at your diet. I mean, that's one of the keys of diabetes, and more exercise. I mean, that's just core, essential information right there. You've got to look at your food choices with diabetes and exercise. Those two in itself can make a phenomenal difference. With Cell H Plus, we actually did a study with even one of the ingredients many years ago with 770 Thai individuals with diabetes, and we showed that it could actually reduce symptoms by up to 90%, and took a few people off of even injection insulin and many off of the oral medications, and reduced pretty much everybody's blood sugar across the board. So what it's doing there is, for one, it's helping create more enzymes to metabolize your carbohydrates properly. This we've shown with the stem cell, it's actually regenerating some of what you call the allolongerins in the pancreas, which have everything to do with sugar metabolism. So we've seen improvement there with the regeneration of cells in the pancreas. So those are some of the main factors. I could get into more, but I think those are two of the real keys. Now with diabetes, I've just had such incredible benefits getting everybody off wheat. I'm sorry to say, I know it's like the biggest food, #1 food throughout Asia now. I mean, even many of the noodles, the instant noodles are wheat instead of rice these days. Let me get into wheat real quick so you know why I say this. For one, your body rejects it. Almost all of it is GMO these days. Very hard to find a wheat that's not genetically modified, and they've shown that the body will reject it. The cells will not fully take it on. Many people have allergies to it. So many people are allergic to wheat now because it's been overconsumed. Third, and we did studies, actually with pigs in Canada. You have a threshold, you have a level of percent of free fatty acids or rancidity that any grain should have before you even feed it to Canadian pigs. We worked with the Canadian Veterinarian University there. And after 5%, they don't feed it. Wheat, within 1 day of being milled, became rancid. It went up to 27%. We got organic wheat from Whole Foods grocery in America. So everybody, it's whole wheat, it's organic, all that. It was like 8-9%. So as soon as they break it down, it starts going rancid. So every time you're taking wheat, you're eating rancid grain. Rice kept it down. White rice went up. I mean, white rice is not that good, I'll tell you that. I only eat basmati or brown or a purple or or black rice or wild rice and things like that, which are much better. And they didn't go rancid as fast, we showed. Well, we have a little bit of rice in this product, which is, it's gone through a stabilization process. It doesn't go rancid. We had some we tested 3 years later, still below 5%. So, and rice is so essential, but with diabetes, you're having a hard time breaking down carbohydrates. And here you are taking all this wheat, for one, along with sugar, of course, but wheat in itself, and you're not utilizing those sugars, those carbohydrates. Where are they going to go? Blood sugar goes up, 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 right? So with Cell Age Plus, you're improving the digestive enzymes. You've got an ingredient in there that's been shown to be effective with syndrome X, metabolic syndrome, and diabetes. And then you've got the anti-inflammatories. You know, they've shown diabetes is an inflammation disease, and that's why the body is actually it's become insulin resistant, you know. And why? Well, because there's some sort of inflammation. Why would it resist insulin? There's an inflammatory effect going on there. So there again, with the curcumin and the quercetins and the sessaplexes and things of that nature, you're reducing that inflammation. So it can be very beneficial. And the other thing is, the only sweetener in there is xylitol. And from what we've seen and all I've researched, it has little to no effect. It has a very low glycemic index, you know, and so it doesn't affect the blood sugar like sugar and NutraSweet and all these other ones. Oh my gosh, we could go into 100 different types of sugar they have on the market these days. And one of the worst, corn syrup solids. You go look at all the foods, start reading labels, you know. Corn syrup solids, that's one of the worst sugars you can possibly eat. And look at all the foods that have it in it. So check that out. Let me put my charger in here, okay?
All right, thank you, Dr. Mark. Okay, the next question will be, how does Cell Age Plus help with uterine fibroid and uterine hydroma?
I'm sorry, I can't hear the last word.
How does Cell Age Plus help with uterine fibroids and uterine hydroma?
Oh, uterine fibroids, you know, there's many factors there too. They can be many sizes. Some can be harder than others. Some can be more fibrous. That's something they really need to work with their gynecologists on, because they need to check and make sure that they're not cancerous, for one, you know, that they're not, there's no metastasis there. They don't want to fool around with uterine fibroids and such. So the only thing it does, it can increase good circulation. Uterine fibroids, they are very, very difficult to dissipate and to break down. You know, there's so many things we used to do, everything from apple cider vinegar tampons to oh my gosh, so many approaches we would take, to hot packs, to castor oil packs on the abdomen every night, on and on. They're a situation, and sometimes you may need to have the fibroids cut out. Many times you can live with them if they're not too large, because, like I say, they're not cancers. They're not they haven't metastasized. So you need to check that for sure, you know, to make sure what the status of them are. And if they aren't creating any big problem, you can pretty much live with them. I just have to watch them to make sure they don't continue to grow, they don't impair any of the other organs in the vicinity, you know, or blocking the circulation anywhere in the body. And if they're causing problems, worst case scenario, you may have to have them removed.
Yes. How about uterine hydroma?
That again is a blockage. It gets into a whole nother realm there that I will just briefly allude to. I was somewhat of a gynecologist as well. I didn't know, even though I would never call myself that, but I worked with one of the foremost osteopaths in the world. And one thing we did was uterine adjustments on practically every woman, where the uterine gets out of place. You have the uterine ligaments, you have the ovarian ligaments, and many things can cause those. There's posture, stress, many conditions can cause these, well, the uterine fibroids, I mean, and blockages, and the uterus gets out of place, and it blocks the circulation on that side. This is where a lot of the ovarian cysts and come from as well, is the circulation is blocked in that area. And many things like dysmenorrhea, amenorrhea, if things are blocked or twisted there, anteverted or retroverted, too far forward, you're affecting the bladder, too far back, you're affecting the colon, and you just, I can't do it in Malaysia, but in America, we had a clinic, we did, of course, many thousands. They have to go inside and put the uterus back in position. Of course, I always had a nurse with me, blah, blah, but it's just has to be done. It's a structural alignment, the same as you adjust the spine, or any other part of the body. The inside gets out of balance too. And what you get is you get fibrotic tissue, and part of it's mineral deficiency. Part of it can be just basic ptosis, which is the organs falling because the muscles, ligaments, tendons are not strong enough to hold it. And it can fall and put pressure, or even a full colon can do that, put pressure on it, sometimes child, but that usually corrects itself. And it can cause the uterine ligaments to become fibrotic, which is hard, and they pull and they tug on it. It's blocking the circulation. And that's what's happening with uterine hydroma, is basically you're blocking some of the circulation to your uterus for one reason or another. And I would just about guarantee the individual that's asking that question has an anteverted or retroverted uterus. And we've had this problem for 40 years, longer than that. Dr. Robertson was 90 something. And it's an osteopathic technique, a naturopathic technique, and it was well used in the early 1900s. And then medical doctors started foo-fooing and say, oh, there's no problem, anteversion or retroversion, and it's not true. It's definitely creating a problem in the system. And I don't know if they can find somebody to adjust it or not. One of these days I might get back into practice, but not these days. And but it's that can be the problem. And I don't know if you have a solution in that respect. The Cell Age Plus is going to help with circulation. It's going to help with inflammation. It's going to help with giving your ligaments, your tendons, and your muscles more power, more strength, and more energy to be able to keep things in a better condition. But I can't say it's going to correct your problem.
All right, thank you, Dr. Mark. All right, the next question we have is that when the prostate specific antigen ratio, the PSA, is around 8.63, so how would you advise the patients to consume Cell Age Plus so that we could help them to reduce back to the normal index? Is it possible?
That's a inflammatory condition, and right there we're showing that it's the Cell Age Plus can help with inflammation. A prostate, and of course a lot of it too depends on age and many other factors, and there's a total nutritional program for prostate, and you need to change your diet. I mean, your food choices, there's no doubt about that. And I've always told men that one of the keys with prostate is you need to keep it active too. There's this old story that in parts of India, they have no prostate problem. And every time after they urinate, they reach down and they massage their prostate, which is great. I used to do prostate massage and prostate adjustments in my practice, not just women, men too, or women don't have prostate. I mean, women uterine, but men prostates, because it gets hard. It gets like a baseball or a golf ball, let's say that. and it enlarges, it should be the size of a walnut or maybe even smaller. And it should be soft and pliable. And unfortunately, as men get older and they have less sexual activity, the prostate's going to get less sexual activity. I think it can have too much. I never tell men to orgasm more than every 3 days. It's going to take 72 hours to regenerate sperm. But also, you don't want to go years and years without, because that's part of the prostate's job. It functions like. But that's another story. That's my male medicine. And I teach courses on that. But you have to change the diet. That's a big part of prostate, the PSA. Now, keep in mind, the PSA they're finding may not be a determining factor for cancer. You got to keep that in mind too. I mean, it's definitely a signal. And if it's getting high, like 8, usually above what is it? Asia, I think it's above 5 for prostate, is out of balance, as I recall. But I just tested mine. I'm 0.25, but you really have to watch that, and you need to reduce, and you need to check on a regular basis, make sure you don't have any form of metastasis there, and keep all that in check. But you really need to look at your diet. You need to get more exercise. You need to drink more of good pure water. If you're smoking, you definitely need to stop smoking. There's just no two ways about it. And watch your NutraSweet. They've shown a direct correlation with NutraSweet and the prostate. So all those are factors. Now, as I said earlier, prostate is a inflammatory condition. So the great thing about it, and they've shown curcumin. You can do some of your research. Curcumin and quercetin can be very beneficial for the prostate. Like I said, I'm 3 months away from 70, and I have a perfect prostate. And I think part of that is diet. I think part of it's exercise. Part of it is drinking good water. Part of it for sure is Cell H Plus and the ingredients in there, and lowering inflammation, and healthy sex now and then. Not often. Sorry. We won't get into that.
Congrats. All right. Thank you so much, Dr. Wang, for the sharing. All right. For the next questions, we have, how does Cell H Plus help with imbalanced ear fluids, which causing the customer to have, a feeling of fainted, feeling like vomiting. So how should she consume Cell H Plus to help improve this condition?
What was the first part?
Unbalanced ear fluid.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, that's an interesting situation. I do so many things, but one thing we did was an osteopathic technique where we have to go into the eustachian tube and actually pop open the eustachian tube to drain it. We used to have to use nitrous because it hurts so bad. Oh God, it's terrible to do this, especially with kids with tonsillitis and adenoid problems, but we corrected so quick. Anyway, you've got to drain that. And, you can, one thing is you can try a little hydrogen peroxide in your ear, not much, just a little bit. You got to check with your doctor to make sure that it's not a wax buildup, and you may need to get rid of the wax and dissolve the wax. And there's many drugs out there, not even drugs, I think OTCs that you can use for your ears. I don't see that Cell H Plus is going to affect it that much. One thing you need to do for sure, see a good chiropractor. That's one of the first places. I mean, I would say see a good naturopath, but I don't know I don't know what country you're in, but you may be able to find anybody who does good spinal alignments, because it could be your atlas and axis are out of place, which are causing the imbalance. And so you need to look at that. But you also need to get off wheat. Wheat is one of the most mucus causing substances in the world. Wheat and dairy. Eliminate those for a month and see what happens. See if that reduces it. But, like I say, check your ears out. With regards to Cell Age Plus, the only thing I can see that is going to help there is if there's an inflammatory condition, if there's possibly a sinusitis or with that, you're looking at, well, it gets complicated. You're looking at the inner ear, the cochlea, and a lot of other factors there. You have to look at the tympanic membrane, and you look at it with an otoscope, and you see how much fluid is building up behind the drum, and so all those are factors. But you with Cell Age Plus, you're going to lower your inflammation, so it's going to help, and it's all there again an inflammatory condition. But you're just almost a classic case of your atlas being out of place with the fainting and the nausea, because the atlas and the whole spine is connected to the vagus nerve, which has everything to do with digestion. So all of those, you have to look at the body as we're just one integrated, one thing affects the another, I mean, with chiropractic, you look at the atlas and you look at the, the lumbar spine and such, and you have to correlate, get the hips balanced, blah, blah, blah. And so much more you have to get balanced so that everything is flowing. And if you've got this vertebrae up here that's out of place from an accident, or maybe just posture, or maybe genetic, or born with it, but you have to get things aligned so that you're getting the circulation flowing. Something's blocking the circulation to your ear, or you could have sinus problems, or too much wheat, too much dairy. Don't believe this crap that milk gives you good calcium. They've shown in countries who have the highest consumption of milk can have the highest rate of osteoporosis. Isn't that amazing? They did a study in New Zealand that showed people who had the highest consumption of milk had the highest rate of diabetes. Go figure, So of course, these days, and I hate to say it, but the media is run by Big Pharma. They own them, and a lot of what you hear with regards to certain foods, and then the media, the advertisement of all the sugars of NutraSweet, of Milo, oh my God, that's one of the worst foods you can consume, and people drink it like water here, unfortunately. And I'm not criticizing you, okay? I'm just saying you've got to be aware of what you're doing here. I think Milo is full of corn syrup salt. I don't know. I haven't. I should go look at the label sometime, or just look it up. But it is just one of the most atrocious foods. I think Nestle owns Milo, and of course they're nothing but sugar. But all these corporations, as we all know, and this isn't conspiracy theory, and this is just not extreme. We know who owns what and how they all are connected, and how they're going to use the media to make you think that certain things are so good for you. It's so interesting. When I was a kid, one of the big things was the Pillsbury Doughboy, which is so appropriate. It was an advertisement for flour and for food and for bread and biscuits and all of this back when I was a kid. Everybody watched TV back then, and everybody believed the commercials. But here's this big Pillsbury Doughboy who looked like the Michelin guy. Look at people now. Now America, who lives on wheat, is what I think they're 65 to 70% overweight and over 50% obesity. I mean, watch not the movies. You get all the slim, trim, handsome, healthy, macho guys and sexy women there. But if you just look at the airports, look at TV, look at sports events. Oh my gosh, everybody in the audience is just so rotund. When I flew back to America this time, it was like, oh my gosh, it's almost a nightmare. I hate to say it, but it's not healthy. Obesity leads to degenerative disease. There's just no doubt about that. So, if you're overweight, you need to work on it. First, check your thyroid, look at your diet, do everything you can to We do. I'm not say you have to be skinny. That's ridiculous. Some of the skinniest people are the most unhealthiest. When I was practicing in Santa Fe, New Mexico for 30 years, all these people come in, I'm vegetarian, and they were pale and they had no whites in their fingernails, and you look under their eyes and they're white, there's no red. I mean, they were so anemic and they were so sick. And of course, they weren't taking B12, folic acid, and other forms of iron, so they weren't getting enough. They weren't getting enough of the right form of amino acids either. But anyway, long story, but don't want to diverge too much. But they were some of the sickest people I've known. Now, vegetarianism could be wonderful if you know how to combine your foods, get enough folic acid, B12, and iron, but you've got to have those. They're essential. And most people don't. I just don't eat meat, but then they just eat more grains. What happens with grains? Oh, look at what's going on now. You see all these fad diets now, the keto diet, for instance, and getting off grains altogether. You got to have some grains. And that's a great thing about our product is you do get one of the best sources of grains in the world with bioavailable amino acids in the right form of beta glucan carbohydrates and alpha glucan carbohydrates that the body utilizes for energy and rebuilding cells. That's why it's such a wonderful product.
Yes, thank you so much, Dr. Mark. And then I suddenly realized it has been past 10:30, and yet we still have a few questions from the floor. So is it too late for you already?
No, we'll take a few more.
Okay, so maybe we take last 4 questions.
Oh, wait a minute. Am I on overtime now?
It's up to you.
I'm joking.
Because I remember the last we had a Zoom with you, we had a lot of questions from the floor as well, and we had more than 2.5 hours of sharing. Yeah, so perhaps you want to break your record. Maybe we have a 3-hour Zoom this time.
Let's see what else people want to hear.
All right, cool. Okay, the next question we have is that this customer, she has been eating Cell H Plus, 1 sachet in the morning and 1 at night, and then suddenly she feel like the leg is swollen, and then she feels so scared, and then she stopped consuming. But then after 3 months, the leg is still swollen. So what would be the possible explanation for this condition?
Well, it's not the Cell H Plus. If she's been off 3 months, that's definitely not it. The swelling can be edema. She may have fluid. There again, it could be that her low back is out of place and putting pressure on the nerves that feed the leg, and so the circulation could be blocked. It could be venous. Hopefully she hasn't had COVID, because that's a classic sign of possibly thrombosis, of the blood being too thick. And unfortunately, with some of the vaccines, they're causing that. So she needs to correlate it and make sure. And of course, if it is related to possibly a vaccine she had, if it developing after that, then she needs to report it. But one thing is, she should go see her doctor right away, if she hasn't already, to maybe determine what is going on there. I mean, hopefully there's, it's not a thrombosis or an embolism or something like that, a blockage and the blood's getting too thick. But she should definitely look at if it could be a correlation with the vaccines, because it's happening around the world right now for so many people. I read more about it every day. Well, let's not get into vaccines. Yeah, it's a sensitive area, but you can read about it. All these athletes are coming out and saying, "Hey, I'm so impaired now as a result." But those are, who knows? There's fake news everywhere, so who do you believe is what it all comes down
Medias,
to.
right?
Yeah, but go check. I mean, right away, go check and see if there's any problem there with your circulation, because you don't want a blockage, because that blockage could happen and carry throughout anywhere in your body, and possibly cause a stroke or something of that nature. I'm not trying to scare you, but I'm just saying, I don't know how much swelling there is where it is, what part of your leg or anything of that nature, but you should just go check it out if you haven't already, and be sure and make the correlation and look at that. But yeah, don't do any Cell Age Plus for a while. I don't see how it would cause that. I mean, it would only help with circulation, but first find out what's going on. That's the key.
Yes, always search for the source first.
Yes, you got it.
Yes, all right. Thank you, Dr. Mark. The next question we have is that how can Cell Age Plus help to improve CKD since the glomerulus are hard to reverse for those dialysis patients?
You know, when somebody has gotten on dialysis, I mean, I can tell you we've had people, many people who had high to increased glomerular filtration rates and with their kidneys, and been able to reduce it and get better function. With dialysis, it gets to be, and we've had people who are on dialysis who improved. But it's something they have to work with their doctor with, because with dialysis, it's a very precarious situation. Very few people get off dialysis once they start it. I don't want to say a percentage or very few, but there's many who don't, okay, because the body becomes dependent on that dialysis for its detoxification and function for the kidneys. So, and we had people get off dialysis who've taken some of the ingredients in our product. I haven't worked with anybody on dialysis with Cell Age Plus. Maybe somebody else may know, but you know, I'm not as privy to all the experiences people are having on a daily basis with Cell Age Plus. So, but with the filtration rate, it can definitely help lower it. But the problem is that many times your physician may not allow you or want you to drink too much water. And it's kind of a contradiction. You need more water to clean your kidneys, but then on the other hand, you know, you're not able to tolerate it, and your kidneys won't be able to flush it. So it's a fine line there.
Yes.
And like I said before, everybody's individual. So, you know, you have to look at, well, what may work for somebody may not work for another. And you have to talk to your physician about it, okay, if you're on dialysis. And many times, of course, if they don't know what the product is, they'll say, no, don't do it. If they really know what each ingredient does, then they would see where it could enhance your kidney function. But there's no proof of that. I mean, we haven't taken, you know, $1 million and done research on Cell Age Plus and how it affects people on dialysis. I would love to do it. I mean, that would be a dream to do that, to show how it could improve it. But only pharmaceutical companies can afford to do such extensive studies to get it approved for such. And of course, they may do 100 studies and find one that works. So it's a catch-22 there, you know. So, but if you're on dialysis, you need to talk to your physician, show them the product, and ask them if you could take it. Because two, if you're taking it, you're going to have to start drinking more fluids. So, you know, you've got to look at all those factors.
Yeah. So do you think it's possible for the glomerulus to regenerate again through the stem cells?
Yes, but there again, with all of that, you're looking at whether or not the body can tolerate it, because of they're on dialysis, and I can't tell them to do it, because it's a sensitive situation that they need to discuss with their physician, because he may have a certain protocol plan and you know, a definite schedule for them to be on dialysis, a special, what should I say, liquid consumption or limitation that they have, all those factors. All I know is that this can regenerate cells. So if they can consume it, fantastic. And also, sometimes the kidneys has an inflammation. I mean, it's like, why did they shut down? You know, that's the question. Why did the kidneys shut down? Why aren't they functioning anymore? Because they're not getting the energy they need. So this is an energy food which can feed them, give them the energy if they can tolerate it and if they're able to consume it.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Mark. And then we are coming to the last question.
Wow, really? I may have to draw this one out. Let me see. I've got what, 12 more minutes before we hit the 2 hours. Okay, go ahead. Thank you.
All right. The last question is, okay, this customer, he's now suffering a stroke which caused by blockage in the brain. So is it possible
Blockage of what? I'm sorry?
Blockage in the brain.
Oh, the brain.
Yeah. So is it possible for Cell H Plus to help him?
Absolutely. You need to look back at how long ago this happened, what the cause might have been. Of course, diet, what's causing the blood to coagulate, whether they smoked, of course, that can block it, wrong kind of foods and too much of the wrong kind of cholesterols. We all need cholesterol. That's a key. Cholesterol is essential for the body. You know, it forms enzymes, it forms cells, brain cells, all of that. We all need. And the thing too is the liver produces a lot of cholesterol on its own. So, you know, it's just we're taking the wrong kind, too many saturated hydrogenated oils, you know, and they tend to block and coagulate in there. But one of the keys here, and this is a big thing with any type of heart disease, you know, even cholesterol, it's ridiculous, not ridiculous, that could be a part of it, to just check cholesterol alone and then say, well, this is causing you're much more susceptible to cardiovascular disease. You can have high cholesterol, and that could be great, especially if it's high HDL, the beneficial ones. But the key here is what they call the CRP and homocysteine. And now many of the foremost doctors in the world, they would never just take a cholesterol, you know, in a drugstore or even just recommend one cholesterol test for somebody without checking CRP, C-reactive protein, and homocysteine. Those are inflammation. It's not the cholesterol that's causing the problem as much as it's the inflammation that creates the problem, that destroys the blood vessels, and then the body sends all this cholesterol, sends all this plaquing to help support that, the blockage or to reduce the inflammation. So you've got to make sure that your CRP and your homocysteine are, you can do citrate too, but that's a little different, are in a normal condition. Now, the great thing about Cell H Plus is it can help lower the inflammation, okay, the CRP and the homocysteines and such. And that in itself can be beneficial in preventing another stroke in the future. Now, there again, you need to look and make sure this didn't happen after vaccination. I'm not warning people, but this information is coming out more and more across the news these days, that certain vaccines, I don't think Sinovac, Sinopharm, I won't mention the names of the ones that do, are creating this embolisms, are creating this thrombosis, this clogging of the blood, the thickening of the blood. And so it can, people who are more sensitive to it already can be more susceptible. But anyway, regardless of that, this could have been a long time ago. You need to change your diet. You need to look, get more exercise. You need to get that circulation going. You need to get that blood flowing. You know, it's kind of the difference between, I always create a similarity or a symbolic representation of this. It's like your own car. You know, you change the oil in your car. If it just sits for a long period of time or you don't change the oil, what's going to happen? It's going to get thicker and thicker and thicker. They call it viscosity. You know, that's the thickness of the blood. You want to have it flowing like, you know, you just changed the oil in your car, and so it's nice and clean and crisp and not all black and gooey, because that's what's happening in your blood. It's getting black and gooey, and eventually it can stick somewhere, you know. I mean, a stroke can also happen, of course, from an injury, but that's very, very seldom where it happens instantly like that. It's more a matter of a degenerative condition, and inflammation is happening in the body. So you need to look at every possible way you can reduce that inflammation in your body. Number one, cigarettes, of course, but then you need to look at the food you're eating and the oils that you're taking and the fried foods and too much pork maybe, or things of that nature, which can create more congestion, you know, throughout the blood. and change your diet, change your way of life, and get more exercise, get outside and move, And one thing I want to say, because I'm talking to mostly probably Asians tonight, not 100%, maybe a few Middle Easterns too, but you need to look at vitamin D, okay, because most of you avoid it. You avoid sunshine. Well, I'm taking D3. D3 does not get absorbed that well. You may absorb that D3, but that doesn't form the conversion that has to happen with pure sunshine. Even if it's 5-10 minutes a day, get a little bit of sunshine. You can read now about the difference between getting sunshine and taking this vitamin D, especially the D3, even that, it's not enough. You can go test your D3, and I've tested already people, and chronically, and they've done this around the world with COVID, they all have low vitamin D. Practically every single one of them. So you've got to look at that, and make sure that you're getting enough vitamin D. Get out there and exercise, get a little sunshine, get a little fresh air, anything like that. It doesn't have to be long-term, just a little bit. And so you don't turn dark, but we got a possible solution for that too. We won't get into that, but it's another story. So you've got to look at that, and with the stroke, you can regenerate. I mean, that's the thing about this product. You block the circulation to your brain. Had a stroke. I don't know if there's been any brain impairment or mental impairment or whatsoever, but you can regenerate. And that's the key. I'll finish this by saying there's a study done, and I can't remember. I keep thinking this was like 30 years ago. It was Cambridge or Princeton. And before we thought we could never regenerate brain cells. Then they finally discovered that we regenerate continuously, Sometimes when I used to get drunk, I know I killed brain cells. There's no doubt about it when I had too much fun, but I regenerate them. I wouldn't be here tonight talking if I didn't, and remembering all this and being able to spout it all if I wasn't making new brain cells. We all are continuously. You just have to have the right nutrients to do so. And the great thing about Cell H Plus is it is a great brain food for circulation, for reducing the inflammation, for getting the right kind of amino acids instead of the rogue proteins that create the problems up there and the blockages. And also that you're getting the nutrients in the new stem cell and cell food. This isn't just a stem cell food. This is a cell food as well. It's just it goes a step beyond creating new cells and creates new stem cells. What's so important about stem cells? They're like the queen bee. One stem cell creates millions of working cells. One stem cell. That's how powerful they are. So that's why finally the world's gotten into it. Let me say this about stem cells too. And Dr. Steele's mentor, I forget his name, but he developed the bone marrow transplant for cancer, which is stem cells. That's what they could do now. They can do bone marrow. Now we can do it blood, we can do it fat, we can do it many other things as well. Mostly we're doing blood because that's probably the best form and the easiest form. Bone marrow, it hurts. You got to go in, stick it into the base of the spine, suck it out. It's just into the bone marrow. And it's very, very painful and serious too. And so there's much less extreme ways of going now. But they were doing stem cell therapy. This was 30, 40 years ago, with bone marrow transplants. They're already doing it. So now that's just become a new hype, a new word. But they found out through all this research that it's so important that this is the core for regeneration. If we don't regenerate the stem cells and give them the right food they need, which we've proven in this research that we did both in America and Asia, that this is the pure cell food. This is pure stem cell food, along with the anti-inflammatory, along with the immune modulators. Modulators, okay, and that's the key, along with the right nutrients and minerals and vitamins and trace elements. So you're getting all of that in one little sachet. And it tastes good too. That's the other thing about it, which was amazing. You all created it to taste so good.
Yes, because we have been receiving a lot of feedbacks that even small kids, they liked Cell H Plus as well.
Great. Yeah, I've heard that too.
Yeah. All right. Another questions is that I would like to consult Dr. Mark regarding the relationship between metabolism and aging and telomeres.
Telomeres is an interesting story. Um, when I first told Dr. Ann that there's a lot of hype out there about telomeres and how these products and that product can increase telomeres, and she says, it's hokey. I said, what are you talking about? She says, well, I get the most advanced scientific research in the world. I mean, Dr. Steele was getting millions and millions of dollars from the National Institute of Health back when Bush was president. He was saying, no more stem cell research. We're not going to do that. And all the Christians who said, oh, great, they're not going to do any more embryos, went crazy. They were doing tons of it. And the NIH, National Institute of Health, which is the government foundation which supports research, was given millions, billions of money into this. So, when it comes to that, it's a whole different story. And so I asked her, because she's one of the tops in the world, top 10, if not top 5 stem cell researchers in the world. And I could tell you stories and stories about what she's done and how many people recognize that. But anyway, I told her about that. She's, you got to be joking. I said, what do you mean? She's, the length of a telomere has nothing to do with longevity or health. That's bogus. Says people who have short little telomeres live to be 100. People who have long telomeres die at 40. She's, I don't understand where that's coming from. She says it's just not accurate, but it's become a bandwagon. And I can't say it's not accurate. I mean, maybe now there's new research out that can show that this is important. With regards to metabolism and telomeres, and what was the third part?
Aging.
Aging. Okay, that was it. I covered that already.
Yeah.
And so you're going to increase metabolism. And that's the key. You've got to balance the metabolism. That's why they call it metabolic syndrome. In metabolic syndrome, you have cancer, you have Alzheimer's, you have heart disease, you have diabetes. All of those come under what we call metabolic syndrome, which all comes down to cellular function, hyperinsulinemia. It all comes down to that level regarding how we're metabolizing carbohydrates and getting the right kind, having the right enzymes in the system, lowering inflammation, and then having the right nutrients to be able to create new cells. So that's the key. Telomeres may or may not be the future. I can't say, I could be wrong. It may be much more accurate than we realize when it comes to percentage-wise. All she knows is in all of her studies, all she's seen is that there's no correlation between longevity or health and long or short telomeres. So it's a hard call there with that. All I do know is that we have the other factors, and what you said with metabolism is the key, because that's what it all comes down to for all the metabolic diseases is metabolism, lowering inflammation, getting the right nutrients, getting the right enzymes, which I think there's 78,000 enzymes in the body, and getting the right amino acids to create those. So those are the spark of life. To me, that's more important than telomeres. Telomeres are the end result. We're looking at the true source of it all, which is enzymes, which is nutrition, which is stem cells. We're at that point. They're saying, okay, let's measure it at this point. So, and I'm not knocking it. Like I said, I'm not always right, and I'm not even sure I'm right, but that's just what I got from Dr. Steele. And she's one of the foremost scientists in the world. So I don't know. Somebody's making a lot of money on it. I know that by going with the telomere thing. And who knows, we may find a way that you measure telomeres that is more definitive for this particular type being healthier. And I'm not that experienced with it. This particular type of telomere, if there's different types, I don't even know. I'm not a biochemist, and so that's not my forte. So yeah, but the key here, you hit it right on the head with metabolism and aging. And what I always say too, it's not the longevity, it's the quality of life that's important. There's this, I don't want to call it a joke, but there's this thing going around, and probably most of you have seen it, saying And I think it comes from a Japanese professor. You only live so long. Your heart's only going to live so long. Your brain's only going to live so long. So you might as well get out and drink and have fun, party and smoke and all of this, you know. And I don't believe. Then you get into destiny and fate and all that. Who knows, you know? But it's just not true. Prime example is genetic diseases, and this is why I'm not so into genetic testing. I mean, it's great because then you see that you can have a propensity for that disease. You know, it's in your constitution and your cells and your DNA, so there's a likelihood. But a prime example is, and this is one reason why I went into holistic, natural, integrated medicine. My papa and my grandpa both died like late 50, early 60, in the prime of their life. You know, it was so sad. And they ate supposedly good food, all of that, you know. But the thing is, you never know what your longevity is. And here I am, I'm 70, you know, and now my brother's 72, and we realize we've both gone further than any man in our genetic lineage by at least 10 years. And so genetics is not really the key. My mentor used to call it familial. Familial means if you eat like your family did and they died young, you're probably going to die young. You know? If you smoke and your papa smoked, and it, you know, I have many people say, oh, well, wait a minute, my grandma smoked and she lived to be 90 something, you know. And I said, well, what did she smoke? You know, most says, well, she wrote her own, you know, and she had her own tobacco and all of that. And so it's a different story than what we have now with these. They're like chemical fags. They're not even cigarettes anymore. I guess they are cigarettes, but they're not hardly even tobacco. They even put stuff in them to make them burn faster. Tobacco will go out. If you have natural tobacco, it's going to go out. It's not going to keep burning. They put what they call saltpeter in it, you know, and that's bad because it makes men go like this after a while. So, you know, it has a bad side effect there. And it recently, and I'll just finish this off, there was a study done that showed that, what was it, 60 something percent, I'm terrible at numbers, of men over the age of 45 in America now have ED, which means they can no longer. That's why Viagra is one of the #1 selling drugs in the world right now, and all the other ones. There's so many out there now, you know, Cialis, blah, blah, blah. I haven't tried them. I'm curious what it does, but because the problem, and that's a life force, you know, that right there is showing that your life force is dissipating. So we need to look at that, how we can regenerate, how we can revitalize ourselves. And that's going to be longevity. And that's going to be the quality of life, which is coming back to what I was wrapping up with. We want to improve the quality of our life right now. That's the key. It doesn't matter how long we live. We want to enjoy life now. We don't want to be sitting in a hospital with tubes in and out of us, and, you know, and needles and big bags, and, you know, and being taken care of and not being able to get out and enjoy life. Oh, how horrific. It's like a nightmare. We don't want to go there. We want to be healthy, vital, strong, and enjoy life and be happy. That's the key.
Yes, I still remember one of my favorite quotes from Dr. Mark is that aging with grace.
Yes, I like that.
Yes, I think this one should be our slogan next time.
Yeah, I don't know how you say that in Chinese, in Cantonese, but yeah, it'd probably be great. So yeah, I agree.
Yes.
Aging with grace.
Yeah, so thank you so much to you, Dr. Mark, for your comprehensive, you know, thorough and also elaborated explanations and sharing and answering so much questions tonight. And then yeah, we broke 2.5 hours record.
Way to go. It's all your fault. You get credit. You get credit for it. No, you did a fantastic job. And I was kind of a little slack on a couple of questions, and I'm going to look them up and try to get to the core, because I don't know what causes porphyria, and I'll have to really get to the. I could have been right on, or I could have been wrong, but I don't want to give a misconception. So anyway, but yeah, great questions, and thank you everybody for, especially in Asia, because it's like what? It's 11 o'clock there now.
Yes.
So anyway. Thank you. You were fantastic as always, and everybody. So it's my pleasure.
we are so honored and blessed to have you with us, Dr.
Well,
Mark.
thank you.
Seriously.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much for your precious time, and everyone here from the floor. Thank you so much for your great night. And then we have comments from the floor from Margaret. Oh, we feel so proud to have you.
Well, I'm honored and I'm humbled, but great. Well, I can't wait till someday when we can all get together, and all this is over and we're able to be human again and be social, and we'll have a big gathering. We'll have a lot of fun and share so much. Yeah, so someday.
Yeah, when everything is over, right? Rainbow after the rain.
That's right. Wow, I like that one. Let me write that one down.
All right. Yeah. So we look forward to have your session moving on. Maybe next year already, right?
Yeah, I guess it'll be next year. Great.
Yes.
Well, thank you so much, everybody.
Yeah, thank you so much to Dr. Mark, and everyone's precious time for tonight. So hope everyone take care, and then we consume Cell H Plus every day to get our immune system ready, because we are going to live together with COVID, just like how we live together with our cancerous cells in the body. All right. Yeah. So all right, now the last part of the sharing session tonight would be to have a preview with everyone about our upcoming program or initiative or events. All right. So the first one would be, I think the screen is a bit small, so maybe can make it bigger, because thank you. All right. So the first one would be, we are currently running a campaign whereby we are collecting feedbacks. All right. We are collecting testimonials. All right. So as long as you are willing, and happy to share with us your testimonials about how you feel after consuming Cell H Plus, your body improvement, you just need to record a minimum 2 to 3 minutes of video and submit to us. And then after the verifications, you are going to get a free Cell H Plus, one box. All right. So this is the campaign that we are running right now until the end of January 2022. And then the next one, the event that we are currently running now, is the trip, incentive trip to Sri Lanka regarding the germs explorations, and also qualifiers will be able to attend a free class on the jewelries, how to examine, genuine jewelries from the fake jewelries, and so on. All right. So to know more, you may find your friends or find your leaders to understand more details. And then the next one will be for the coming next Saturday, 18th or the 20th of December, we are going to have a Christmas party. All right. So I see Dr. Mark is smiling very happily.
What's this about red wine? What?
Red wine. We have turkey.
I'll have to talk to Lawrence about that one.
So we welcome every one of you here tonight to join us. All right. So in order to RSVP, you may just look for the friend that invited you here tonight. All right. And then the next event that we are going to have is the Lover Product Testimonial Conference. It will be next Wednesday at 30 p.m. So we'll be having some guests, some customers coming up here to share some good news, good stories with us. So feel free to invite your friends here, and then let us share the good news together. All right. So that's all for tonight. A very last question. Do you have anything to add on, Dr. Mark?
Add on. It just goes back to, I wish there was a way of measuring prevention. It's many times people don't realize how healthy they are, or what they are resisting, or that their bodies is not being overcome by, or just how powerful they are. We had a machine where we could test the vitality of people to blood, urine, and saliva, but it's another story, and their life level. But people need to realize just how strong and how healthy they can be, and they are, and that they're preventing so much. Where you look at so many unhealthy people, and just realizing, you know, this, I always say when I'm lecturing, this is health and happiness, and health is wealth. And not only can you make some money, but you're changing people's health in the process as well as your own. So what better opportunity is there than that? It's just a wonderful opportunity. And I just thank all of you for sharing and reaching other people.
Yes, we are so grateful and blessed that we have Dr. Ma, you know, Dr. Ann, and the whole R&D team who come up with these such great products. You know, we have been helping so many people, like you say, especially during this COVID.
Yes.
And then so far, we haven't heard any news that someone consuming South Plus got COVID. So far, no news.
Isn't
all
that
of us are
amazing?
so, yes, it's so amazing, seriously.
Yeah.
So thank you so much. Okay, everyone, wish
Good
you all
night.
a great
Thank you.
night. All right, and take care and stay safe. All right, bye bye. See you all
Bye.
next time.
Thank
Bye.
you. You were wonderful.
Thank you. My honor, the honor is mine. Bye.